Hey, what, gentlemen, right now you're watching dcbornrob on YouTube.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located. Thanks for joining me. This is a worthy cause right here. Thank you to everybody who's waiting in the green room. This is because of you guys that this story will be elevated. We are attempting to get the story of the brothers who have been wrongfully accused of murder in Ecuador. And when I say wrongfully, it's because I read the judge's decision. I know that they are innocent, and I hope that you do too. But this gives you an opportunity to ask questions, meaning the YouTubers, gives you a chance to ask questions of the family. The father, Jason Poblete from the Global Liberty Alliance will join us at 6:30, as well as the Imam. Imam, I saw you pop up, but you guys are due on at 6:30. So we're going to talk a bit right now, but I want to allow each of you who's waiting in the green room to introduce yourself and, you know, what we spoke of earlier, just a brief statement about you and your channel, and brief thoughts about what you think about the brother. Stephen, you are first in my line, so I'm going to bring you on first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen. I am the creator of Stes. I'm actually a content creator. Normally, my channel is based on travel. Most of the places where I travel, I like to record, blog myself, and also I'm a big aviation fan, so I also do flight reviews on a lot of the airlines that I fly, do comparison and talk about the service. And that's about me, of my channel, Stes World. The situation with the Stephenson brothers, that is something that's heartbroken because unfortunately, after seeing their story, they went to jail unjustly. So, and then the way that the Ecuadorian, like their government or law enforcement, the way they like manipulated things, I mean, it is horrible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we appreciate it, Stephen. Hang on for a second. I'm going to bring everybody on together in a minute. But next up, I have Carlton. So Carlton's Travel Adventures, my man, who I watched before I moved to Medellin. Carlton, how are you, sir?
Hey, good night, guys. How you doing, man? This is Carlton with Carlton's Travel Adventures. Originally from New York and Miami, and I've been living, in Medellin for about 4 years. And I have a travel channel, a small travel channel. I just give people some updates on, visa and stuff like that in different cities throughout Colombia. But when I've been following the case on your channel now for a while, and when I first heard about it, it gave me chills because, as a person who lives outside of the U.S., and I really don't have a desire to go back, so I'm going to live in either more years here or Portugal or maybe Brazil, and it brought chills down my spine because I'm thinking it could be me, could easily happen to me, and you realize that you really don't have that much help in the U.S., which is scary. You know what I mean? So that's what really, really bothers me, that you realize that you really have no one who can help you out in the States. So it's really
exactly.
Scary.
And we are all travelers, so this should be resonating with each and every one of us, and our viewers too should all be travelers. So appreciate it, Carlton. Again, I'm going to bring everybody back on in a second, okay? Next up, I have Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me. Anyways, so my name is Mike. I'm with Mike's Philippines Journey. So I pretty much concentrate about content creation for people who are interested in traveling to the Philippines. So pretty much just trying to help people out to come to the Philippines, do the right thing, to be able to avoid certain pitfalls, especially what's going on with these two gentlemen right now in Ecuador and stuff like that. So, pretty much it does kind of suck the way things are going on for them. And I think that this is a wake-up call for a lot of men to understand the fact that we need to understand that these are not our countries. And knowing this, we need to first, before we do something, is understand the law that's created, how things are happening around there. And so it's kind of funny, the past week before you invited me here, I've been talking about other men in the Philippines who got affected also by the certain laws. And it just sucks to see how these things goes. And, we do hope that they can get out of there. But we also have to understand that the U.S. Department cannot really do much for us. And we need to read the fine lines in a lot of these places. Like, look at the U.S. Department website to see what is the maximum thing that they can do for us. as much as possible.
Okay, appreciate it, Mike. And I will say this, that our government, it doesn't do much once you're outside of this country. I can tell you that. I did a video, I don't know, a month or so ago, and I said it a few times, you're on your own. When you leave the country, you're on your own. So keep that in mind when you do leave. Next up, I have Strill. Big Strilla. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Coming through clear.
Yeah, so I'm a travel vlogger like a lot of these other guys. I'm glad you introduced me to some of these new guys because I haven't seen them before. I know Carlton travel, but the other two gentlemen, I haven't had the pleasure of seeing their channel. But like Razor Ray said, man, when dcbornrob calls you up to be on the show, you show up. You know what I'm saying? This is a worthy event, and I'm honored to be on the panel.
Hey, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. Hang on a second again, Strill. We're going to add everybody back in a second, okay? Next up, I have Don Andre, Investigation. Andre, how you doing? I can't hear you. Let me see if I have you muted on this side. No? Is your mic on that side? I heard something bump and click. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, excellent. Hi, my name is Andre. I have 2 YouTube channels. My main one is ASD Docs. I recently got canceled on that one. It's a long story, but I created a new one called Don Andre Investigations. And what I do is I investigate corruption, police officers, judges, attorneys. And when I heard about this case, I actually reached out, not by Rob. I believe it's a friend of yours, Rob.
It was a researcher. Mm-hmm.
Yep, a researcher. Right. And I immediately, I looked into the story. I went on your channel, and I immediately, it's not something I typically talk about on my channel, but I knew that, like the previous guest that you had on, this could happen to any single person. Right now, I just got back from Mexico. As you can see, I look all crazy and insane right now. I usually don't look like this, but at the same time, like you said, no one's going to come to your rescue in America, and that's just the truth. I mean, I even interviewed the 2 brothers on my podcast on ASD Docs. I recommend that anyone watching this, if you're unfamiliar with the case, to please watch that interview. And of course, DC Rob, I mean, you've done an excellent job reporting on this. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me, and I'm honored to be here. And DC Rob, you are doing God's work. So
it's a pleasure to have you, Andre. I want everybody to know, and everybody who's watching, that Andre is the heavy hitter in the room. He is doing a job that, let me tell you, you got to check out his channel. Check out ASD Docs. He's got it on the screen right here, and you'll see it again later. And by the way, everybody who's here, your information will be in the description of this video, so everybody can come back and look at your channel yourself. But he just got recently demonetized, and Razor, I was talking to you about that the other day. Man, he's got so much good information, but when you're doing right, and right is right, he must have hit a nerve on one of these people, one of these cops, one of these investigators, one of these lawyers, one of these judges. And so, man, blessings to Andre. You are doing God's work, man. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for being here tonight, man. Really, this is a big one for me. Okay, so hang on for a second, and I'm going to bring everybody back on again, okay? Okay, next up, I have Reluctant Navi. How are you, sir?
Hey, man, I'm doing all right. I just sent the message. I had to wait for you to start so I could send a message out to a lot of my guys, because we've been following this and we've been trying to keep this story alive. I formerly was a lab tech, retired from the Army. So as you were breaking this down at first, because we did something else when I was in Colombia about the guy in Barranquilla too. Mm-hmm. And so I've been following this, adding it in wherever, because it's not getting the news that it should, basically. So I am glad to see a lot of these people here. My channel been flagged. I just made another new channel with the understanding that it's probably not going to be monetized ever. But what we do on my channel is anything that affects Afro people or people that help out Afro people. We talk about building relationships within communities, and I do that by taking soccer balls, dolls, computers wherever I go, and building a one-to-one relationship, person to person. So when I was looking at this, when you first brought it up, I was like, wow, these dudes are really being framed. Me being able to see things from a more science, biological perspective. I was like, oh, that's framing 101. And so it's great that this kind of attention can be brought to that. And I am so glad to see some of the other. I know the one brother with the glasses that live in Colombia. I follow him too. Yeah. I follow him too, right? I usually pick y'all's brains before I go into Colombia. But the next time I'll be heading into Palenque, so I'll be staying with them people because I'm helping out that school down there. But yeah, that's basically it. And what we're saying about the government, the reason I don't get in trouble in Brazil is because of the relationship that I've built with people here. And some of them, you know, I know people who know people on high, you know, but without that, it's up to us to get this news out.
Well,
I mean,
that's
really.
exactly what we're doing this evening. So I appreciate you jumping on, brother, for real. Hang on one second. Again, I'm going to bring everybody back on in a second. Hang on. Up next is Razor Rays. How you doing, brother?
I am okay. And I'm Razor Rays, of course, everybody. And I have once again been summoned by Rob and said, and that's being here, Rob, to talk about this very, very important subject. My channel is about travel vlogging, travel safety, and I try to do it in an entertaining way. You know, I don't want people to use this passport and end up in a situation like the brothers out in Ecuador. Very unfortunate. dcbornrob, you've been doing a great job covering the story. And my question would be, you know, is about the $1 million the authorities asked from the brothers in the beginning, right? And what they even went to the case. I believe if they gave up the $1 million or then they go to $100,000, if they paid $100,000, would they still be in jail right now? I don't believe so. I believe they would have dropped those charges. I think it was an extortion. And hopefully that'll come to light. But thanks for having me here. So I do want to discuss this.
Absolutely. Again, hang on, Rays. Again, I appreciate you being here. I want to briefly, I'm going to bring everybody on one by one. I'm not sure who Oren is, but I have an Oren. Let me bring on Oren and see if hang on one second. There you go. Oren, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm the uncle for the two guys down there, wrongfully locked up, man, and I'm following this story. I'm getting the feedback from my sister, which is the mom, and Bobby, who's the daddy there, and I'm like, I'm on another planet because I'm from Guyana where there's all kind of railroading in the system, but I ain't never seen no railroad like this one yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyone who's seen the details knows it's a railroad.
This is a railroad, man. I'm no decent guy. I know what a railroad is when I see a railroad, and it's not because of my nephews. It's just what I can't understand. I'm here in Toronto, right? What I can't understand is the American government is going all over the place and bringing people back with less time than this. How come they're not involved yet? Like, am I missing something here?
Nope, you're not missing anything at all. It's wrong what's going on. And by the way, your brother, the brother's dad, is going to join us in approximately 15 minutes.
My brother-in-law.
Yeah.
His wife
is
my sister.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, as well as the Imam Alfred's going to join us in 15 minutes, and Jason Poblete, the attorney, is going to be here in 15 minutes, and we'll all be able to ask questions and talk about it. But Oren, stand by 1 second, okay? I'm going to bring everybody back on.
Okay, thank you.
And if you will, everybody, if you will, mute your microphones. I'm just going to go over a brief recap of what has been going on. Looks like I can only bring on 6 people at a time. Okay, but so everybody else, hang tight. I have after that, Andre, all you guys, hang on. So for those who have not been following the case of the brothers, and I should have done this right off the bat, these 2 young men Roger John and Ronell Stephenson were arrested 5 years ago, March 5 years ago, the 10th or the 11th of March, I believe, and murder charges were filed against them for the death of 2 young indigenous men in Palora, Ecuador. They were found on their property, on their 125-acre property. They had an ecotourism farm that they had for I think 4 years at that time. And I don't know if it's jealousy. I do know it was a setup, and I pretty much know who it is too. We can discuss that either later or at another time, but we pretty much know who set them up. Probably the same person that tried to sell their land twice, or did in fact sell their land illegally since they have been locked up. But mind you, one of the gentlemen that was killed used to work on the farm, was actually a DJ and a friend of Roger and Ronell's. So the bodies were found again on 125-acre property, and they were arrested at approximately 5 a.m. in the morning. Now, prior to the police showing up at 5 a.m. with guns and ski mask on, the indigenous there, dozens and dozens and dozens of indigenous were on the property at approximately 3 a.m. Now, I don't know where you are at 3 a.m. or what part of the world at 3 a.m. that is not pitch black, but think about that. 3 a.m. in the pitch black darkness, these indigenous were there and showed up with shovels in hand, and went straight to the spot out of a 125-acre property and dug the bodies up. Now, the bodies also had dirt in their mouth, and that dirt was not from their land. So they were placed on that property. And my understanding is that the indigenous are known to enact justice that way from one group to another. So just get the gist of the whole situation. So if anybody wanted to jump in and ask some questions, let me know. Those who are at the bottom, Andre, Reluctant Navi, Razor, and Imam, we're going to bring you on in a couple of minutes. Ask your questions. Ask away. If it's anything I can help with, I will. I understand the basic story of it for going on for the past year. So who wants to go first?
I'm sorry. My thing is, I know this is a foreign country, and how is their due process different from ours? I mean, I know it's not the same, like we expect a certain way of things being done here in this country. I know those don't exactly translate over there. So that was my first question.
Well, they are notorious corrupt. I think they got the corrupt country of the year award last year. Obviously, the prisons are extremely violent, and if you've seen some of the video of the riots, there's been a few hundred people that have been killed in the past couple of years. And as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, their friends, Roger and Ronell's friend, was killed during the last outbreak about, I think it was 2 to 3 weeks ago. And his head was cut off, his hands and his feet were cut off. That was their friend, was across the hall from there. So they were in an abominable situation. But regarding the courts are corrupt. Come to find out that the prosecutor, their first attorney that represented them was a former prosecutor. That former prosecutor actually went after one of the deceased dad, the person who is orchestrating, can you see my quotes, who is orchestrating all of this madness right now, who orchestrated his sect to show up with shovels that night. How did he know where to go? So we can talk about that at more detail, but their laws are broken. The laws are broken. Anybody else who's not in camera, if you have a question, go ahead and throw your hand up. Carlton, I saw you.
Yeah, I had the same question as Oren did. And this is Ecuador. It's not Russia. It's not China. If we want to get them out, I mean, as far as the U.S. want to get them out, we could. They can make a phone call and release these guys if they wanted to. And so I don't get that.
Yep, one phone call, and that's what we've been working. We've been going after the reps, and that's another reason right now. We're trying to bring awareness to go after their reps. Their reps are David Trone, Chris Van Hollen, and Ben Cardin. Now, David Trone and Chris Van Hollen are up for re-election. That's good for us. So we need to contact the people who are running against them and reach out to them. And for David Trone, that is Dave August. And for Chris Van Hollen, it is Michelle Smith. And the Republican is James Taranton. Now, I will tell you this. I will call and reach out for assistance from a Republican. I don't like either side. I don't like Democrats or Republicans. So somebody who says I'm biased doesn't work for me, because I can't stand any of them until they can start term limits. I'm not buying any of it. But so Michelle Smith, I believe, is the other Democrat. And shout out to O for finding all this information. He's our researcher that's been helping this family so much for the past year. And James Taranton, who I believe is the Republican for that. But we need to reach out to them, because our reps, their reps, are not doing a damn thing. So the goal is, now I've been in town, a month and a half ago. I actually stopped by the embassy there, to the Ecuadorian embassy. They talked to me, but I can't get Ben Cardin, Chris Van Hollen, or David Trone on the phone, but they'll speak to me at the Ecuadorian embassy. Come on. I just pulled up, parked in front of that door, knocked on the door, went in, and 30 minutes later, I was speaking with them. And it didn't ask me to leave. I was there almost an hour. They actually talked to me the whole time and answered any question or concern that I had. So, but they are part of the executive branch. Like if I were to go to the president here, they're part of the executive branch, whereas the attorney general is who has over the court system. So they can't really reach it. They're not supposed to, but we understand that one phone call, like you said, Carlton, the right person calls over there and they can get this stuff straight. But did anybody? Okay, hang on one second, guys. Reluctant Navi.
I was thinking two solutions, is because this is all my solution. One of the main things I talk about is American politics. That I understand. And as you know, I have no side, Republican or Democrat. I don't call them the same. I just say they do bad things, but I accuse the right people. And that's what we do wrong. We say they all the same. They do the same. No, accuse the right person, and then you could remedy it. And so I think we should target the Republican people running against the Democrat people, because the Democrat people are going to be weak and they're fighting for survival. So, and we should start. I've been making videos calling this a fraud. All right, and now I could just make videos and target the Republican people that's going to run against the Democrats, and we can just keep putting it out. The Democrats have done nothing for these two gentlemen. Let's see if we can get the Republicans to do it. One of the things they hate is to be primaried. Mm-hmm. All right. And so we could go through the primaries and call out the Democrats, or we could call out the Republicans and see if they'll do something, get their word. Look, if we, push this, let this be a weapon that can be used against their representatives, because this has been going on this is like
5 years.
Yeah. And I know I put out the information on my channel, like when you first posted it, like the day after. So that's been a minute to have nothing done. So that's my solution. We target their Democratic leadership for primary, because we got to get people to speak to Ecuador on this side, because it is a fraud. And then with all of our channels, we could start making videos about the fraud and call it a fraud. The fraud in Ecuador, and bring attention to them brothers, because they keep, like the other dude, when I do stuff like this, they keep flagging my channel. But I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm getting popular on TikTok. So that'll be another avenue.
Excellent. So hang on for a second, Reluctant Nabi. And I see you, Imam, since we're talking about politics and government, he wants to come on. And anybody else, again, if you want to answer a question, just hold your hand up or a white sheet of paper, just so I can see you move. You have some kind of motion, but I want to give you a word from the brothers again.
Hi, my name is Roger John Stevenson, and this is my brother, Renell Stevenson. The last 4 years of our life have been a complete nightmare. We are in an Ecuadorian prison, sentenced to 34 years, 8 months, for a murder of a dear friend that we did not commit. We beg you to please share this video. Without your help, we cannot come home. Please share this video.
Okay, now everybody needs to know also that since this has begun, they are no longer in that first prison. Roger has been moved to a less volatile prison. It's still a bad prison, but it's a less volatile prison, to say the least. And Ronell has been suffering stage 4 cancer for the past 4 months. And he's gone from, last I heard, 185 down to 105. So you can imagine again what a man looks like from 185 gone down to 105. But he is in good spirits. We're in communication with him daily. I knew that was all the videos I did with him. I knew there possibly would be a time that would come that we would not have direct access with them like then. So I tried to record as many videos as I could. But again, we were talking about government, so I wanted to bring the Imam on right quick. And again, if anybody wants to jump in, ask him any questions, ask the dad any questions, ask the uncle, or ask the attorney any questions, let me know. But Imam, how are you, sir?
I'm well, and I thank you all for, when you see stars, you get starstruck. Carlton, go get your passport. I just got mine. But I wanted to say to you all that the legal system, Ecuador is under what is called the Justinian inquisitive system. They operate with a magistrate, so they can hold you. They have a due process, which they have not followed. There is a court called the Inter-American Court. We have intervened even into a couple of other foreign countries that have actually reached out to them, the other embassies. I'll talk a little bit more later about that. In addition to being a practicing politician, I am an imam, and I'm moving the religious community, the Jewish, Christians, the Catholic Church. We're about two steps away from reaching the Pope's representative. He's very close. And I must tell you, I have some inside people inside of the President Lazo's office from my political association here. What is needed is the pressure has to be put on Greg Meeks. And I have been working with Greg Meeks since August, and I've been getting platitudes. I just got to indict him. I'm sorry, Greg. You're up for election. Also, Senator Menendez, actually almost, I'm convinced I needed an emergency passport to travel to Mexico. And since I put so much pressure on him, they made me go all the way to Arkansas to get an emergency passport. So, there are political ramifications. But I think what we're doing now, this case really should be before, in my opinion, and I'll let the attorney speak to it should be before the Inter-American Court. All the countries in Latin America are signatories to that court. And that court has jurisdiction. That case has followed no due process according to Ecuadorian law. I mean, I'm not talking about, everybody have a legal system, but they have an inquisitive legal system. But this case cries out for diplomatic. I hope we don't have to wait until September, because we need to press at the United Nations. We need to press some of the other countries to intercede. There's one country, I don't want to name that country, but the foreign minister of that country has reached out to the Ecuadorians. Now, I understand that the president of Ecuador is prepared to release them. He needs a cover because he's worried about the indigenous people, which dcbornrob is aware. So there's inner politics. So it's not just the politics of Democratic Republicans, it's also inter-American politics. And unfortunately, the ugly color race does come up. But we'll tie this all together in the course of this discussion. First of all, thank you. I must tell you, the person that on Father's Day of 2021, while trying to have a Father's Day meal, grabbed my heart. That's dcbornrob. dcbornrob in the indictment. The indictment read on about May 21st in Linden, New Jersey. Imam Alfred watched dcbornrob, and he was taken hostage on this case. And I'm determined. I reached out to you. You reached out back to me. I didn't know how to reach you. And I'm not the most technical savvy person. And we have been on this case. Really, I think we've been on this since May. Finally, you and I reached in August. So everybody, wherever you're from, I don't care whether you're from Miami originally, if you still vote in the United States, and I would advise you still vote in the United States. Send the people a copy of your voter registration card. Because I'm going to tell you, as a politician, we don't listen to you if you are not registered to vote. You may not know that, but that's real. That's everywhere. So if you send them a copy of voter registration and say you are concerned, Democrat or Republican, because the pressure, there are 3 people, there are about 4 people can make this happen. We know the Pope can. We know that President Biden can. We know the President, Secretary Blinken, and even John Clyburn. These are people who can make this happen. And but the pressure should be a flood to be put on right now. Greg Meeks' death, that is Congressman, let me respect the title, Congressman Greg Meeks, and U.S. Senator Robert Menendez. I have worried them so much, they hardly want to take my calls. But now it's time for you all to call them. Of course, he asked me the question, well, what is the concern of yours? They're not from New Jersey. Yeah, I said, but I'm from New Jersey. And you're going to be up for election soon. And I support you. And I have supported you. So in a way, that's a very veiled threat that I look at the Republican candidate. And we should reach out to Republicans. We should reach out to, even guys like Newt Gingrich. Let them make an issue. Let's make this a political issue. But I'm going to talk about it on the show, some stages I think we need to start with. Thank you. I didn't mean to talk that long. Thank you, dcbornrob. It's good to see you on camera and to be able to interact with you. Carlton, I don't know the other people, but I got my passport.
All right. Thanks, Imam. Again, he's going to come back a little bit later. I wanted to ask a question of Andre. And again, guys, jump in here. Anytime you want to jump in and ask any questions, again, just show motion. So I know you want to jump in and ask a question of anybody else. But I wanted to ask a question of Andre because he is the resident investigator in the room. I'm trying to be Andre. Let me tell you, with my work, I put a lot, and I don't know if everybody knows who watches this stuff, but it takes a lot of work to go that goes into this stuff. My videos may take a couple of days, from beginning to end to get it done. His videos, Andre, your videos, I mean, what? Weeks, months to find out the disposition of a case and so on, and going back by the time he puts his stuff together. It's a lot of work that has been done. What do you think are the first steps that we should take right now to go after the representatives? It's your mic is off again. Okay, there you go. Went off and came back.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Gotcha.
Oh, man. That's so strange. I don't know what's going on here. But yes, what we're doing right now is extremely important. The fact, Rob, that you are bringing so many people that have a following all together just now, as everyone was talking, I even went on TikTok real quick and, said, hey, guys, I just briefly did a little summary right now as I muted myself. And in the link on my TikTok, I want people to come to the live and really listen to this, listen to what we're talking about. And what we're doing is exactly what we should be doing, bringing awareness. And I want to bring another point with the justice system that we were talking about. From my understanding, when I talk to the brothers, it's not necessarily the police that runs things there. It's the indigenous people that run things there. And that is a key thing, the difference between the American justice system and when you're abroad in Latin America. For example, I just got back. I literally just got off the plane from Mexico, and I went through Chiapas. I rented a car, went through Chiapas. I'm all excited. I'm happy. I'm in a new state in Mexico, and there's a roadblock there. And I had been told that the police, it's not necessarily the police that run things, it's the people that run things. And they seemed, I wasn't sure what was going on. I didn't think I was going to have any issues, any problems. As each car is going through, the second they find out that I'm an American, because they ask for my documents and stuff like that, they say to me in Spanish, tenemos sed, right? That means I'm thirsty. We are thirsty. They surround my vehicle and they ask me, they're asking for money. They're asking me for money. I had to pay them off for them to let me go through. Just because I was an American, just the fact that I'm an American, whatever, they got money. he has some money. You know what I mean? And that's exactly. I don't think a lot of people understand how things. I don't think a lot of people understand exactly how it works in Latin America and in these countries. Not the deeper you go in to where there aren't many tourists, the police aren't running things. It's the indigenous people, it's the locals that run things. And in their case, it was, I believe, one of the leaders of the indigenous peoples. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, the leader of the Shuar.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one that's behind all of this. And looking through the evidence, it's pretty obvious to see that this is completely a corrupt system, that they got completely railroaded, that they're completely innocent. And what we are doing right now, talking about it and not letting it go, because I talked to him few months ago. Rob, you brought this to my attention a few months ago. Wasn't it last year? When did you first come up with
last year. It's been at least 4 or 5 months. I took it to Andre because he has a large audience and he's very good with investigation. So you are like the prime person to take this case to. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for even being here. You know, I wanna be. When they get released, that's when, I will be like, wow, I will feel so accomplished. This is why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Exactly. And Rob, everyone here that is in this live right now, that is participating, talking about this, we all have massive hearts. You know what I mean? And how could you not? Hearing their story, this could have happened to me when I was in Chiapas. And who's gonna save me? Nobody. I'm by myself. There's no Americans there. You know what I mean? It really just clicked right then and there. I'm like, whoa, it is a wake up call. The rest of the drive, I was just looking around. You know what I mean? So this happens, and it could happen to you. It can happen to anyone, and that is the scariest part about all this. Exactly,
and everybody needs to know. It can happen to you. We are all travelers. And if we travel international, it can happen. So you have to watch your P's and Q's. I really appreciate it, Andre. Really, really, really. Hang on a second. I am going to bring on Jason Poblete, who is the attorney for the Global Liberty Alliance. I said it right for the first time, the second, third, fourth, fifth time all in one. So I hope we have some questions for you. How are you, Jason? I think your mic is muted.
So Rob, how are you doing? Thanks for having me. That was a great listening to this fellow about his experience, and it's pretty common. A lot of times, most Americans, when they travel, they have no idea that for the most part they are alone. And thank you for what you do. It's fantastic what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Since you are on, and I guess the dad will join us in a minute, I want to ask you for an update that you could update everybody on let's say for the last couple of months anyway, what's been going on up until now.
Well, here in Washington, what we've been laser focused on is ensuring that the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs, Roger Carsons, who's a great man, he's a good fellow, he has a great team over at the State Department, that this case of the Stephenson brothers be assigned to him. Frankly, it's very late. As you know, we've talked a lot about this. And for some bizarre reason, it's still languishing in this bureaucratic back and forth. And it's not uncommon in these cases to have this happening. You have different parts of the State Department, different parts of the government, either because of ineptitude or because they're too slow. We really don't know. They just haven't done that. And it's a very special department inside the State Department. It's rather new. It's been around for maybe 3 or 4 years in its full capacity. And now there's a law in place called the Levinson Law, which we've talked a lot about, and that empowers these officials to do certain things that in the past could have been done, but were not being done. And we want that happening here in this case. We want this case escalated. We want President Lasso. We want all those politicians in Ecuador to know we're going to bring the brothers home, and they're going to be held to account for this injustice that they've committed to these men. And also we will find out at some point what happened here. Ultimately, there's a lot of lawyers in Ecuador that feel terrible about what has happened. and they're helping us. They're volunteering. They're giving their time. They're providing us testimony. They're giving us affidavits. We're collecting evidence from people on the ground, listening to folks who have firsthand knowledge about what may or may not have happened there. So it's almost as if we're restarting. We've only been involved with this. The Global Liberty Alliance has only been involved with this for months. We were approached, and I'll share this with your listeners so they know how this all started. We were approached by a great organization called the Foley Foundation, which I'm sure folks know about this group. If you don't know about them, please look them up. James Foley Legacy Foundation. It's led by a remarkable woman, Diane Foley, whose son was murdered brutally by ISIS. And she's been advocating. She's turned that negative event into a positive thing. She's been advocating for families that have their loved ones held hostage or unlawfully imprisoned in many countries. They came to us a few months ago, late last year, saying, "Look, we need some help with this case. We're not sure if we can help at this point, but can you take a look at it?" And we took a look at it. And Rob, we've talked about this. Within 10 minutes, I can read Spanish. I can write it. I knew something was terribly wrong here, and we decided to jump in and learn as much as we could. We went through all the court records. We continue to pour through all that, and we would like to, of course, launch an additional investigation if needed to help Ronel and Roja get out of that place. I can't underscore again how dangerous it is to be in Ecuador. These prisons are terrible. U.S. taxpayers have helped create this system. Unfortunately, we've given millions of dollars to Ecuador, ladies and gentlemen. Your taxpayer money, for those of you looking at this program from the U.S., 2 countries in Latin America like Ecuador, and ironically, they've judged these men wrongly, and now they're paying a very high price in these prisons. So we need your help. We need you to call your congressman. We need you to call your representative. Go to globallibertyalliance.org. Give us a call. Email us. Contact DC Rob. We will tell you what needs to be done. Right now, again, we want to shift this case from consular. It's this part in the State Department that deals with American travelers when they go overseas. You deal with consular. Shift this to hostage affairs that deals with unlawfully imprisoned people, and get Congress involved to help these men. I can't understand why it is taking so long for the Maryland delegation, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the House Foreign Affairs Committee, everybody in Congress to help these men. We just spent $40 billion, invested $40 billion in Ukraine, and we can't spend even a few, who knows how much, to help these men. And by the way, to give you some context, there's roughly about 60 Americans right now unlawfully imprisoned or held hostage in foreign countries. We believe that number is much higher, and there's a report that's supposed to come out soon that will detail a lot of that. The Stephenson brothers must be on that list, but more important than being on the list, Rob, is to get our government to go down there and tell President Lasso the process has been put in place. So we've tried to obey the Ecuadorian legal system. We've paid it a lot of respect. You know this. The brothers have gone on your show and talked about this. Why haven't they followed their own laws? That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for any special treatment. We're asking them to follow their laws. Tomorrow, President Biden, Secretary Blinken, Roger Carson should be sent to Ecuador to meet with President Lasso and find a resolution to this. He traveled to Venezuela. Roger Carson did, the special presidential envoy, to meet with Americans unlawfully imprisoned in Venezuela. He should have gone to Ecuador a long time ago. So thank you for bringing attention to this case, Rob, and I hope folks have some questions. I'd be happy to answer anything that folks ask.
Absolutely. If you'll hang with me 1 second, Jason, I have a Strill Life wants to jump in.
Yeah, so I was watching your video, Rob, and I believe in one of them, you said that the evidence, the bodies that were dug up on the property were actually giving it back to the indigenous people, and there was no autopsy done on that. Is that correct?
Well, there was an autopsy done, but my understanding is the bodies were removed by the indigenous. When the brothers were arrested and taken away, they heard yelling and screaming and wailing from the indigenous, and one of them actually hit Roger as they were taking him away. So they sped and got them out of town, and that's when they just burned every piece of property that was there. But my understanding is they are the ones that took the body and took it in. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, Strill, that's a good question. One of the perplexing parts of this case is the lack of, frankly, chain of custody and all the evidence collection that was supposed to have happened that didn't happen, and also how the crime scene was contaminated. And there was a sequence of events that stand out from the record. Again, these are things in their record. As terrible as the record is, their own record contradicts itself. There were errors made. There's evidence. And we have a lawyer who has said this in an affidavit, that the bodies, in his opinion, were moved from another location and placed there. And there were soil samples that should have been tested that were not tested. Moreover, DNA tests that were not done to exonerate the brothers. On top of that, according to the experts who have reviewed the file, and we have one lawyer who has put an affidavit, who has sworn that what he says is true, there was evidence of tampering, that the bodies may have been destroyed before the police even arrived. So a lot of crucial evidence that was needed at the scene was lost. So they still tried them. And you go through the court record and you try to, keep in mind, Strill, that there were several prosecutors who refused to take on this case. They went through several prosecutors, several judges questioned whether or not the prosecution had enough to proceed just based on the evidence. And we're just focusing on the bodies. There's a lot of other information that we could bring into this. But what's interesting about this, about the prosecutors, that one of the prosecutors is right now in jail. They were stripped of their law license to practice law. So for the life of me, Strill, I don't understand what happened. We're gonna get to the heart of it, but there's a lot of bad evidence that was used against these men, and there was a lot of good evidence that was destroyed or lost because the prosecutors and the police did not follow basic evidentiary collection tactics.
Right. You would think that being that one of the prosecutors is in jail, they would look at the cases that they recently worked on. But also another thing I noticed was that their alibi, when they put their alibi out there about where they were at the time of these deaths or crimes or whatever, the prosecution took 3 months before they went to check the tapes and stuff at the restaurants and the receipts. Could you expound on that?
And based on what we've been able to collect from the record, and we will, if we have to recreate a lot of this, we're going to. Brothers were not even in the vicinity. They could use their cell phones and ATM receipts to show that they weren't even around, supposedly, when this happened. So I think that hopefully we won't have to recreate all of this, because the Ecuadorians know that this has been a huge travesty of justice based on their record. These men should not be there. This should have never even been tried. But yes, you're correct. There is data, including ATM receipts, cell phone pinging that should have been done that maybe was not done correctly, that puts them at a different place. But even the timeline, if you look, according to the lawyer, that one of the leading lawyers I spoke to on this case, when I say leading, it's because he was involved with the defense early on, and he was not a lead lawyer, but he was involved in the defense, and he has stepped up, and he has provided the U.S. government a record of all the different errors, some of the ones you're talking about. Hopefully someday we can make this public. He says exactly what you're talking about, that there's data that proves that one of the men was nowhere near there, but that the bodies, it's impossible given the state of decomposition, that they were in the place they said they were supposed to be. And in his opinion, this lawyer used to be a prosecutor. They may not even have died the way they said. There's evidence these men may have died in a motorcycle accident. We may never know, because the indigenous people they set fire to the house, so they pretty much destroyed evidence. So, and by the way, the prosecution knew this.
Right.
The prosecution allowed the crime scene to get the police allowed the crime scene contaminated.
And they stole all their livestock, I saw as well. And also they had that lucrative deal with Tabasco to grow those chili peppers there. And that's, I mean, who knows, if this ever has a positive resolution, they probably gonna want to sell to get out if the property hasn't already been stolen from them. But
I'm glad you raised that point, and that's a point that we stress to the State Department, because Americans, when you own property in a foreign country, so this is for anybody watching who owns property in a foreign country, if the government ever interferes with your property and they make they restrict your property rights, under international claims law, that government can be held liable for certain things, and you as American have rights. Generally, you got to be careful when you buy property in a foreign country. So I'm not giving legal advice about that. But in the case about the brothers, we're very concerned, and we have told the State Department, not only do we have to worry about bringing these men home, but the Ecuadorian government, it appears to us, has interfered. These men own this land. They paid free and clear for it. They had title to this property. And now the Ecuadorian government may be interfering in their rights. So it's not just that they've been wronged for a crime they didn't commit. Their investment, their livelihood, like the Tabasco agreement, these men slowly, they were building a business, and they've interfered with that. They also interfered with their property, destroyed their land. Ecuador is supposed to be keeping that property in trust for them. I hope they are, but if they don't, they will be held to account at the right time. But right now, we got to bring Ronell home. He needs care here. Roja needs to come here. They're not safe down there.
Right.
A prison in Ecuador, folks. I mean, prisons are bad no matter what, but that place is horrible. They kill people. They behead people. I've seen video of men having their hearts removed from their body alive. I cannot unsee that. I cannot unsee that. I have seen some horrible, horrible things in my life in the human rights work that we do. But this right here, what these men are living through, it's a horrible trauma because they've been wrongly accused. And then on top of that, you have to live looking over your shoulder every single day. And now Ronell, of course, is battling stage 4 cancer. So I hope State Department people are watching. I hope you're going to act. And I hope you know we're going to stay here until you do act.
Well, that's all I had to say, Rob. Jason, God bless you for your work, man. Not to make this a racial issue, but there's so many people out there that just don't give a damn about Black folks out there. And I can see the passion and your involvement in this. And I just want to personally thank you.
Well, Strill, I mean, I thank you for your comments. Look, I hope it's not about race. Let me tell you this. Now, I was raised not to look at race. That's the way my family raised me, and I believe that's the way we all are. We're all Americans. We all got to help each other out. But I got to tell you, in Latin America, if you're a Black American, things are going to be tougher than for most. So I can't underscore enough how dangerous it is for these men down there. We got to help them. Americans should not be left behind. Look, in the prior administration, Google this. I always tell people this story. Google ASAP Rocky.
I saw that. I remember that.
All right, so if we can send somebody to Sweden, a democracy, right, to help someone out, how can we not send somebody to Ecuador in our hemisphere where there's really a problem,
right?
Where these guys could die there, and we haven't done it. I can't quite understand it, but we're going to stay engaged. We need you all to stay engaged. Talk about it. Tell your friends about it. Reach out to us. Reach out to Rob, the family. We'll figure out a way to get you engaged because we really need Congress to do their job. They're not doing it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rob.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Hey, Andre, before you jump on, I want to put a note out. Everybody else who's in the room, I cannot read the comments that are popping up. If you all can scan through there, and if you see any good questions, again, create some motion, and I'll bring you up to ask that question. If you see any good questions, I'm just unable to take a look at it. But Andre, go ahead.
Yeah. One thing that I remember during my interview with them that I thought was really interesting is that when they got arrested, and it was time, they didn't speak Spanish very well. So that was one thing that I think needs to be known, that they tried to, they're like, oh yeah, this guy's a translator, but he wasn't even translating half the things they wanted. So they were right. Were trying to explain things, but they didn't have a legit translator. This apparently, I remember he told me during the interview, he was some guy who went to the US on a visa every 6 months or whatever. He wasn't even certified. And I'd like to, if you could, just clarify how bizarre that even is, how they don't even have someone that can translate correctly. What's that all about?
Then Andre, it's another good question. At one point, they had to have their taxi cab driver translate for them in court. Under Ecuadorian law, all right? Under Ecuadorian law, that's another important fact. They were supposed to have been provided translation from the very beginning. That didn't happen. They were muddling their way through at the beginning. One of the brothers taught himself Spanish. I think it was Roja. And they went through, and they were eventually, as the trials picked up, they basically relied on their own wits. These guys are very smart. They relied on their own wits. But they had to at one point have their very generous man, by the way, a good fellow taxi driver who felt bad for them and said, I'll help you translate. That was the job of the Ecuadorian government. So at the very beginning, they frankly had no idea what they may have been telling the police or the court or the judges or anything like that. So even at the translation level, there was a problem. And by the way, the government's still doing that. They're supposed to be paying Ronell's cancer treatment. Do you think they're doing that? No. The families had to figure out a way to pay out of pocket a lot of money. When we offered I'm gonna maybe break some news here today because I haven't talked about this publicly. I'm gonna talk about it now. In December of last year, we made an overture to President Lasso to bring Ronell to Maryland. All right. And supposedly they were making some move toward doing something like that. And when that information reached the State Department, the whole thing just fizzled. Nothing happened. If we had involved ourselves and taken an interest and brought him here for treatment, which is what should have happened, the doctors in Ecuador have said to the family, and Robert will tell you later all about this, the father, they want the treatment to be done here if possible. So even at that level, the State Department and our government and the government of Ecuador, so the government of Ecuador keeps breaking their laws, by the way, all the time. But our government, now that they're more aware of this, they too have a duty as Americans to help fellow Americans. And frankly, it's not happening. It isn't happening. It needs to be.
Whatever happened to never leave a man behind. Well, I don't know.
Amen.
I don't know what this is all about.
I really don't understand, but that's why we're having this show. And I don't like to do these shows. I told DC Rob knows this. We only do this as a last resort. So if I'm out here talking to y'all, it's because we need help. We need people to reach out, speak up, call their congressmen, call their representatives, call their local media, and make sure they know about this case. JusticeEcuador.com is their website. GlobalLibertyAlliance.org. We have a story there about them. There's a lot of good stories out about this. We need to get it out. Amsterdam News wrote a great story that outlines some of these problems. And we're not asking for any special treatment. We're asking for Ecuador to obey their laws and for the American government to obey its laws. The Robert Levinson Hostage Recovery Act that was signed into law almost 2.5 years ago allows for an escalation of a case like this. And for some reason, it hasn't happened, despite the fact that since December of last year, a little earlier than that, our government has known that one of these men is battling stage 4 cancer.
There's one more thing I wanted to point out too. When they got arrested, it wasn't just the brothers that got arrested. It was also the girlfriend, right? Of the person that got killed, correct?
No, of Roger.
Huh?
Roger's wife.
Okay, yeah, and so, okay, oh, it's Roger's wife. Okay, I understand. Okay, for a sec, never mind. I thought I had a point there, but
charges were dropped against her, though.
Charges were dropped against her. Yes, they were. There were specious charges against her also, and they were dropped against her.
And by the way, the same evidence. Nothing.
Yeah, there's no evidence. Yeah, and by the way, for the media watching this, because I know I told a few reporters that we're going to be doing this. Please tell your editors to have some courage. Please tell your assignment desks to have some courage. You've known about this story for a long time. So all the TV stations in Washington, D.C., WJLA, WUSA, all these stations, you should be doing a story about the men unlawfully imprisoned in Ecuador. The Washington Post, the Washington Times, Politico, The Hill. Please tell your editors, we need a story on this. This is important. Our State Department is failing these men. Congress, with a few exceptions, is failing these men. We need action today, and the media can be a constructive part of this. So have some courage. Talk to the family. Mr. Stephenson, I think, just joined us. Robert will share the story with you, and we'll help you tell this story because it needs to be told.
Excellent. Did you have anything else, Andre, for now?
I remember that it was a woman involved, and her statement changed 3 times. I remember this. I don't have the specifics. I remember her statement changed 3 times. They were in an interview with them, and they knew every statement was different. And I remember him telling me they just chose the one that fit their narrative the best, and that's the statement that they took. Is that accurate?
I believe it is. And if you look at the record, again, I told you within 10 minutes of reading the initial processing, assuming these men were even guilty, there would have been no trial because it was such a mess. The fact that they were able to build a case the way they did, it's embarrassing for there are lawyers in Ecuador who told me privately, we're embarrassed for our profession that this happened. And they're scared, by the way. A lot of lawyers have admitted to me, look, we're scared because if we stick our neck out too far on this, we risk And you were talking about this, Don Andre, about the indigenous tribes. And, you know, in that part of Ecuador, they wield a lot of political power. So there were a lot of folks that I talked to who were involved with the case or followed the case who admitted off the record, we can't get too public on this because if we do, they may come after us. So that's very chilling. So you're correct. There were problems with the record. The wife should have never been tried to begin with. The brother should have never been tried to begin with. But the fact that they went through with this and the fact that the evidence that was used wouldn't stand muster in the American legal system with our problems. Our system is not perfect, but I believe it's one of the better in the world, and it has enough redundancies in it that you can correct things. Again, it's not perfect. You would have never made this through, I believe, through a grand jury. All right? That's how confident we are in the record that we read that this was that problematic.
One more thing I want to point out too. During this case, it wasn't that they wanted the indigenous people to be on their side. So they immediately went to the media, and the media just started butchering them, saying these are Brazilians, these guys are murderers, they're drug dealers, and completely turned the society around them, the people around them against them. You know, people that didn't know about the case are like, oh my God, how are you going to get away with it? I remember I speak Spanish, and I was watching one of the clips, and they were just all lies, what they were saying. And, you know, they're interviewing the father, right? And he's telling everybody, look what they're doing. We can't let these the Ecuadorian government let these people go. Murderers, he's saying these things, right? So he's already trying to build sympathy for what happened.
Yeah, and that's where, by the way, Don Andre, where I saw, and again, I saw this much later, so I was relying on records and old videos, but that's where I saw the race issue come out indirectly. I speak Spanish, I write it. I grew up in Miami with different Latin cultures, and I could tell those double meanings, those things that they were trying to foment in the public square. And that's where I saw the ugly part of this thing, that it was clear that there were two courts here. The court outside on the streets and whatever they were trying to manipulate on the inside. And it's ugly. Now, a question I ask, and maybe Robert, because you shared the story with us before. Why didn't our government, all right, the State Department that monitors when Americans are in a jam, knowing there was all this media, because the media, I mean, you couldn't hide it. There's all this media. Where were they? They didn't even show up, I think, to maybe one day of trial. Maybe that was a lot. I've never heard that before. I think, Robert, it'd be great to share with folks the beginning of that phase. And, you know, why do you think the State Department didn't show up? I mean, what happened, considering there was so much high profile coverage of this early on?
Mr. Stephenson, could you move it? There you go. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I think that the U.S. government, based on the American Consular Service, the chief of the American Consular Service in Quito, speaking to him numerous times, he said that their consular service is there to make money for America and not basically provide most of the services that are necessary. The very first time I got to know the case was when I got a call on March the 11th, 2017. And the reason it's such an indelible mark in my brain is because March the 11th, 2017, on March 11th is my wife's birthday. And John usually called early on the 11th of every year, early in the morning, to wish his mom a happy birthday. And we didn't get that call. So when I got the call like 6:30 in the evening, it was from the American Consul General's office. And the person who called me, he was the chief. His name was Ian Hayward. And he started out by trying to tell me what transpired. But to cut the chase, he said to me after he told me what transpired, he said to me, we will try to follow and keep in touch with the case and to make sure they get the best representation. Shortly after that, we got nothing. And a couple of days after, when I called him back to ask him what's going on, he said, and I suspected, and from the things that he said, that he probably was advised either by higher ups or it might have been their policy not to do anything, because he said the information he had garnished, because he initially had sent out, I'm not sure if it's a CIA representative at the embassy to go in the area to do some investigation. And they filed a report back with him. And he said to me a couple of days later, he said, man, when I got this report back, 2 days I couldn't sleep. He said it was bad. He said it was bad, it was atrocious. He said, your sons should not be in this kind of stuff. He said, it is so wrong what has happened. But I try to see what I can do. But from here on in, here is my personal cell phone number. I can see what I can do to help. But I'm not sure we can do much.
Go ahead, Andre.
Yeah, I have one more thing to say about the media. The brothers lost their passports and they got their phones. I had an iPhone 7. Somehow, it's never put into evidence. Their passports, nothing. But then somehow, their pictures of their passports are all over the internet. It just doesn't, that's, you know what I mean? It's just little things like that just keep piling up that I keep finding. And I'm just, this doesn't make any sense. How, if because they kept telling them, oh no, we couldn't find it. They burned in the fire. Then how'd they make it onto the internet? Why are the faces on the internet? How is that possible? Because somebody has them. Someone took them.
What?
And so I just wanted to make short little points like that just don't add up, don't make any sense.
The prosecutor lied. The police lied, because what they did, and part of it was because of frustration, okay? When they made the raid, they had to bring police in from about 7 hours away. They brought in the best drug enforcement police force that they thought they could have, because the local police said it wasn't a drug farm. They knew the farm. They knew the farm for many reasons. One, John had a club on the farm and they used to come and party there. They knew John well. He used to be back and forth in town. 3, the farm was such that it was not fenced. Anybody can go on the farm at any point, at any time. The houses were at least about a quarter mile apart from each other. So you could actually wander on the farm and no one will ever know that you were on the farm. So because of the size of the farm and because of the way the farm was, how it was located, how it was situated. In any case, when they made the raid, and these policemen came because they thought they were going to be made famous. You know, the whole thing about the warrant was high-powered weapons, growing cultivation and distribution of drugs. And so they thought they were going to make a big bus and they were going to be big media blitz to show what they did. When they came and they raided the farm, the first house they went to, which is, but as soon as you come onto the farm, was where John and Ronald was in. And they just happened to be there because that's not the house that John actually lived in. John lived in another house up on the hill with his wife. They had gone to a club earlier that evening and came back about 3:30 in the morning. And so when they made the bust and the police realized there was no drugs, there were no guns that they could, high-power guns that they could even imagine. And that first home, they were upset. So what they did is trash the house. Everything they find is they pull down, they spread it all over the place. their wallets, pull out all the monies, throw it on the floor, their passport, their IDs, they just spilled on the floor. Well, the indigenous people were foot on foot behind them. So once they searched the first house, they took them out, they took them to the next house, they did the same thing, and they went from house to house. When they went to John's house, that's where he picked up his wife. He was there. They trashed that house. So every time they went to a house, they trashed it. They left the indigenous people there. So they had an opportunity to pick up anything that was left. So it was never, not all the valuables were, and all the important things were taken away from the house before the fire was set. All the cameras that would have was with the house that could have shown who came when and where and everything, that was taken. So this idea what things were burnt out was a damn lie. All the valuables, the refrigerators, the stoves, the utensils, everything was taken out. And I have not only picture proof, but one of the guys who I knew well, he had lived in America for about 15 or 20 years. He was a taxi driver there. He's the one that called me when they were trashing the homes. I asked him to go and take pictures as they were doing it. So he went in, that's after the police left, and they left the indigenous people there. So that's how the passport got in their hands. The police never took the passport, they just trashed them, threw them on the floor and left them there. All their money, whatever they could find for them, they just trashed them. Because what happened is the police were upset. They thought they were going to be made famous from a big bust. And that did not happen. So they instituted their frustration by doing what they did. What they ended up taking, a couple of the police on their first house was a couple of Ziploc bags that had flour in it and something called a Ajinomoto, which is a seasoning that my sons kept their stuff in Ziploc bags, because once you open something there, because of the way the houses were built, you had to kind of seal them up. Otherwise, it picks up the scent of the area. Flour, sugar, even rice. So they used to put their stuff in Ziploc bags. So that's what the police ended up having to walk away with, because the prosecutor, when he realized there was no drugs, he told them collect these bags and as evidence. Yeah. So that's what they did. Matter of fact, one of the most embarrassing part of the drug trial was when the prosecutor came in, and that prosecutor was selected after about 4 prosecutors said they didn't want the case because there's no evidence. They forced it on this guy, and this guy finally took it. And it was a very young guy, was just now upcoming prosecutor, probably didn't try many cases. He came into court with a box. When everyone saw this box, everybody was shocked. It was a huge box. I would say it was probably something like a 12 by 12 by 24. So everyone was saying, wow, this guy has a whole lot of drugs that he's going to present here. And so when the trial started, and he started going through with the policemen coming up on the witness stand, about 6 policemen went through. They said they never got any drugs, they never saw no cocaine, they never saw anything. Then coming down to the end, you got 2 policemen who actually said they picked up the bag. So now he had to go in the box. When he picked up the bag that he had in this box was a sandwich Ziploc bag that had flour in it. And the Ziploc bag was a sandwich size. So everybody's concerned because this huge bag, why did you come into court with such a huge box with only a little Ziploc bag in it? In any case, when they start cross-examining the police, he said he don't remember any drugs, he don't remember anything, but he remember picking up a Ziploc bag. So they had to go now to the lab. And in Ecuador, the law says, in order to classify something as a drug, you have to perform at least 7 tests. So when they asked the lab, did you ever test the samples of this? They said, yes, but we only did 3 tests. So at that point, That kind of aggravated the judges. The judge says, well, how do you know if it's cocaine? Do you have, at least you should have done 5 tests on it. You did 3 tests. That is not conclusive. And therefore, we don't even know what this is. Did you put, one of the defense attorney asked the police officer how long he's been a drug enforcement person. And I think he remembers saying something like 6 or 8 years. And he said, the defense attorney said to him, okay, you've been a drug enforcement officer for that year. Have you ever busted drugs for cocaine? He said, yep. He said, have you ever done a routine test when you get the sample? He said, yep. He said, what is one of the routine tests that you normally would do? He said, put a tip on your tongue. And he said, the defense attorney said, did you do that? He said, no, I didn't.
That's crazy. What everybody needs to know too, that there is a catalyst, I'll say, for everything. Excuse me. And by that, the head of the indigenous group, the head of the indigenous group is the father of one of the deceased. And the other young man was the cousin of his. Supposedly this father has 50 some odd kids. He has been charged with murder multiple times. He's been accused of rape and kidnapping and way more. I'm putting this out there for everybody else who doesn't want to. I'm going to be the one to say his name is Stalin Zamarenda. He is the dad of one of the brothers. He is the one that asked for the money. He is the one that you see on the news, Andre, going, oh, this is crazy. And the judges are going to, we need justice, and the judges are going to pay if they let him go. I mean, they influence the jury. Everybody, like you said, everybody's afraid of the police. I mean, of the indigenous. The police are afraid of the indigenous. They run for the hill. They do what they do. They do their dirt. They run up in the hill, and the charges mysteriously get dropped a year or a year and a half later. So there are alternative avenues that we need to be following, or that they need to be following. We can't do it. But I'm going to put his name out there because everybody needs to know that there is a reason for this happening. Now, I cannot say conclusively why or any of this, but I'm just, for me, doing my research, and with helping me out, and then Jason, Mr. Stephenson, the brothers, all this coming together in my mind tells me that, I mean, logically, okay, this guy knew John. He had been on the farm before. He had been in every house on the farm. He's walked on the farm, his whole crew. I mean, again, there's no fences, like Jason said. You can walk right on the property and all. So he knew John. If he thought for any reason that John had anything, and I keep saying John, everybody needs to know that John is Roger. Same thing, John Roger. If he had any inkling that John had something to do with it, he could have knocked on the door and say, John, what's up? But he was cool with John. And my understanding is, Mr. Stephenson, he showed up in court and says, I'm cool with John. I'm cool with Roger. I don't know.
He did. And he was
got along.
He was questioned many a times on the cross and direct. Do you know anything that might have caused or suggest a reason for John to want to hurt your son? And he said, no, just read the transcript. It's as clear as day. Okay. He said, and they asked him, okay, do you have a problem with John? He said, no. He said, have you gone to the farm after you found out the sons were missing? And he said, yes, I've gone many times before the police went to the farm. And he was asked on the witness stand, what did you do when you go to the farm? Oh, I was just peeping in the windows to see if my son might have been in there. 1 day, 2 days, 11 days after your son was missing, you still were going and peeping into that. He said he didn't know anything else he could have done.
You know, Mr. Stephenson mentioned there, and for folks watching this, it's an important fact. I want people to hone in on something. When he talks about the big box with the you know, that little theater the prosecution did, keep in mind, folks, that Ecuador is a DEA Andean region zone that we have people in country, have had them there a long time. Supposedly, we have DEA agents in Guayaquil in Ecuador that work with the Ecuadorian government. You would think if they were such big drug criminals that somehow our DEA, who works hand in hand with the Ecuadorian law enforcement, would somehow been involved in this. So, by the way, the DEA, where are you? Why haven't some of your brave agents stepped up and helped these people? We're down there in Ecuador doing what with a corrupt, crooked government? I'm going to say it's not very diplomatic, and I probably shouldn't be saying those type of things, because I don't want the Stephensons to be saying this, but I'll say it.
I'll say it.
I'm shocked. I did not expect this from Ecuador one bit. I expect this from communist Cuba. I expect this from places like Iran, in places where I've actually brought hostages out from. But from Ecuador, where we have the DEA fighting the drug war, do people realize, by the way, the drug war that should end, because it's never going to end. I mean, that's just another topic of conversation. But keep this in mind. These men, they tried to frame them for a drug crime, and it's a joke. They have the best resources Ecuador has to prove drugs, whether the Colombians or the Mexicans. This is a transshipment point. There's a lot of bad hombres down there, as a recent American politician said. And nobody did anything to come to help these people. So there's a lot happening down there that we don't know if we'll put together, but I can't stress enough for anyone watching this, we have to bring this case to the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs. These men can come home if we engage. Why this is not happening is beyond me. It's very, very strange.
Exactly. Andre, hang on. I see the Imam waving to get in. Imam,
yes.
You wanted to add to this?
Yes, I want to weigh in on this. I mean, first of all, legal theory is the evidence is poison anyway, and we know in law that the fruit of a poison tree it's not acceptable. But I mean, beyond the legal side, and I'm gonna tell you, we're not gonna get too far with the legal side. I have someone very close in the president's party. That is President Lasso's party. That happens. I won't tell you what city he's in, but this person helped get the president elected. This man was so terrified when I introduced him to Mr. Stephenson that he almost urinated on himself. Now, he's an American politician of Ecuadorian origin. I didn't want to expose him. He told me, first thing he said to me, why don't they sell the land? So the Ecuadorian government, you got to understand, that country is a coalition of the settlers and the indigenous. But one thing they do fear, one factor, is the American government. I don't think we should dance around all the political and the legal. I mean, we can't dance around the legal. We know that this is a corrupt trial. Any lawyer knows that. The CIA knows that. I shouldn't tell you I know that, but I know they know that. But nobody's going to do anything because nobody wants to antagonize. Even back in December, I got word through somebody out of the embassy, a high person in the State Department, who said the president is prepared to release them. I called a particular congressperson and someone else in the State Department. I said, all I need is a call from the president, even it could be the Secretary of State. I think even the third part, the president needs a cover to let them go. So this is not a legal case. This is a case of a powerful group that the people are terrified, the body politics in Ecuador are terrified of this indigenous group. And I will comment on dcbornrob. I have reliable information. They know this person is a criminal. They know that. They can't say that. And the reason they can't say that because the government is very unstable. But guess who is stable? Our government is stable. So the pressure still has to bear on the United States Congress. And as the attorney said, this should be referred to the hostage team. And we have to press. The Congressional Black Caucus has done nothing. I've been to every level of the Congressional Black Caucus to push this case. We were able to maneuver to get this case in the Amsterdam News, which, I mean, Espaillat now is aware of it. Espaillat is a Dominican person. There's one country in Latin America that I don't want to name has its foreign minister has made approach to Ecuador. But they're not going to move on that unless they get an intervention from America. So we have to apply the pressure. We can go from 10 years now with a legal case. Nothing going to happen. And I see that. I got hopes before Christmas that there was a humanitarian way out. Again, the president said he would release them based on humanitarian basis. But two things happened. They want to shake the Stephenson down. That's number one. And number two, they are very terrified of these indigenous people who have a lot of power, not only in that region, but in other regions of the country. So, again, we're back with the political solution. We have to flood every United States senator and Congress. We have just reached out to a United States senator from one of these northeastern states who's probably going to run for president, and started putting that back on the table. That and the Papal Nuncio, who is the representative of the Pope. These are two people that can make this thing happen. Somebody from the president, about 4 people in America. I don't want to speak bad of Congressman Greg Meeks. He's a personal friend of mine. But this has been in his hands since August. I'm sad to say, and I have to say, Congressman, please forgive me. I got a call about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning from the congressman, wanted to reach Mr. Stephenson, and he went through 15 minutes of effort to tell me what was Mr. Stephenson's first name. I'm saying, damn, who cares about what his first name? Mr. Stephenson. The founder of the aid that he said he called Mr. Stephenson could reach Mr. Stephenson in Ecuador. But what the hell? I'm saying, and that's what I told the aide to the congressman. What in the hell do I care about the name of Mr. Stephenson? The question is, what are you going to do? Then I get a call back the next day. Well, the congressman is a friend of the ambassador. Again, what the hell I care about you being the friend of the ambassador? If you cannot do something. So, dear people, I must tell you, we have to urge people to flood Congressman Meeks' office, the Senate majority, the House majority, the whip. Claiborne can make this happen. Obviously, President Biden can make this happen. I think even a low-level call from a House, and that's what I told somebody. I told one of the aides. If they got a call from somebody even as low as the House the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, I know I'm giving up on my senator. He's mad with me. He's not going to do anything. That's Senator Menendez. I bugged him so much when I need an emergency passport, he wouldn't even give me arrange for me to have. But I had to go to Arkansas to get my passport. Generally, when you especially if you're a political person, you go to Philadelphia and you get a passport in 2 hours. Well, he wouldn't grant me that courtesy because I've been pressing him. But I don't give a damn. I'm going to continue pressing these people, and you all should too. Stanley Hoyer. I forget who Roger's congressperson is. Let's put pressure on them. Let's put pressure on the Black Caucus.
David Trone, Chris Van Hollen, and Ben Cardin. Remember, David Trone is up for re-election, and Dave August is going against him. So let's reach out. By the way, I reached, as soon as I found out today, I reached out to Dave August, who's going against David Trone. Also reached out to Michelle Smith and James Taranton, who are going against Chris Van Hollen. Again, I believe James Taranton is a Republican. And again, I don't care. We just need help from any avenue, period. It doesn't matter.
What is the name of the congressperson that represents Roger? It's not Kwame Nkrumah. It's what's his name?
Kwame Nkrumah represents Ronell for Baltimore.
Oh, that's what I said. Yes, Kwame. I haven't gotten a word from him. I called his chief of staff. I said, look, I mean, I know it's not like I don't know it, Kwame Nkrumah. I'm sort of an ancient guy, so I've been around a while. I knew him when he was nobody. And I called him. He wouldn't come to the phone, so his staff person don't. I said, look, this is an urgent need. This young man is dying in Ecuador. He's from your district. I gave the address. So we haven't gotten anything, but y'all call Kawasi Nfume. He's a very influential member of the House. Used to be the head of the NAACP. And again, we have to involve the NAACP, National Urban League, and all these groups. Pressure must be brought to bear on these people. Like I said,
here's a good example briefly, because I think Imam and Robert, and maybe Don, you were on this when we were talking about it. All this that these men have done and more, there's a lot that we haven't shared with you. It shouldn't take this much work. We shouldn't have to be going on YouTube asking our members of Congress to mobilize and do something for these men. For Pete's sake, we just authorized $40 billion in foreign assistance for a problem out in the middle of the Ukraine. These members of Congress, this is their work, their case work. This is what they're supposed to be doing. We shouldn't have to be briefing them over and over and over again. A lawyer shouldn't have to be sending them one-page summaries 3 and 4 times. Mr. Stephenson, how many times have we had to send the Personal Privacy Act waivers to the State Department or members of Congress office? How many times have they asked us, oh, we got to make sure that you represent them? So what am I doing? Pretending to be a lawyer and going around making stuff up? That is the sort of incompetence that, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this, but Mr. Stephenson knows he's been at this a long time. And they still come back and say, please give me the Privacy Act waivers. I mean, it's incompetent. So we need I'm going to just recite the names again. Menendez for the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Van Hollen, Senator Cardin. We can send you a lot of names of people. Contact dcborrob. We will send you the letters. We will write them for you. But what we really need, again, is someone listening to this to pick up the phone, do your job, get the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs down in Ecuador, the way he went down to Venezuela 2 months ago, and get these men out of Ecuador. That's how we fix this. The law is there to do that. We're not doing it.
Okay. I want to add a few more things. The whole possibility of this whole case being stagnated, I think, is because a lot of times politicians, when they probably hear the word murder, everybody runs for cover.
Mm-hmm.
But no one ever even tried to peel off a piece of the orange to see. These guys were not murdered. These guys were buried alive. Okay. I mean, and if you do anything, any kind of research, it will tell you that's one of the religious customs or tribal customs of those tribes. When any of their members go haywire for whatever reason, that's one of the ways they punish them. That's the first thing. The second thing is that if anyone just peel off a piece of the orange, they'll find out that even with that happening to them, they could never, the forensic pathologists could never tell or even clearly define when they were killed, when they were buried alive. The third thing is they were not buried initially on that farm because the dirt found in their lungs, because when someone is buried alive, they still are breathing. So they inhale this, the whatever environment they're in. The pathologist on the witness stand said the dirt doesn't match the dirt from that farm. You know, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing is that the police never found these guys. It was the indigenous people who found them. And so the police came with their experts, searched the farm, searched the homes, and left. Again, that's also questionable, okay? The other thing that is also very questionable is the fact that the prosecutor who brought the charges tried 3 prior times to get a warrant. And the judge in that local area denied it because he never presented any evidence because he was trying to get an evidence to go to the farm for a drug bust and weapons. That was never presented to get a warrant. So the warrant from the start was bad. So without that being said, then the other thing that turned up being extremely bad, and it's only today I had an opportunity to take some time and read the appeal that was filed by the prosecutor, who was fired about 3 weeks after the case was brought by him, because he went also publicly and put stuff on Facebook and the Ecuador CNN about the case, which was not true. He was fired and debarred for life. And that is something that I will forward to a lot of people. So looking at the case, let's assume that any or everything that you might have known could be true, that my sons would have done something wrong. Anyone with a minimum or minuscule of knowledge would say, why would you fire the prosecutor and debar them for life? This is a guy that was in his late 30s. So he cannot practice law for the rest of his life. So you should be applauding and promoting and putting stars on this guy's shoulders for bringing a case like this, because he would have done something great. Why would you punish him if he did everything right, if the case was right? I mean, what part of the world you knew a prosecutor get punished for doing right things? So.
Okay, Andre, did you have a question? And Razor, by the way, Stephen, you're still there. Jump in. Reluctant Nabi, I see you. I'm gonna bring you on, Andre. Go ahead.
Just, I want everyone to understand what prison is like in these countries. I don't know if you've ever been even to jail. It sucks. You know, it's not a fun place. But Ecuador, I asked them during my interview, and I just want to play just a little bit. Let me know if you guys can hear it correctly. If not, I recommend you see this part. I asked him, what are the conditions like where you guys are at right now? And this is what he told me.
The safety here is not good. It's very bad. You have to remind you, people are walking around with firearms. This is not like people walking around with a toothbrush, shank, or knife. We're talking about guys got guns in here, and we're not talking about small homemade guns. We're talking about assault rifles, AK-47s, MP7s, grenades, Glocks, with 100-round drums.
And what people are going to ask is, how were inmates able to have these types of weapons inside of a prison?
The corruption. It's everything is money. We can send you articles of the massacres that have occurred at the prison we're at and at the other federal prisons within the country. But everything is money. Just a few weeks ago, they found a guard coming in with over 100 rounds of 9mm ammunition. They've caught guards smuggling in shotguns. So they've caught police smuggling in grenades. They've caught military officials smuggling in grenades. This is a war zone within four walls. You can't escape it. You know, it's everything is at a boiling point, because what happens is whatever takes place on the streets, reactions inside of here. So let's say 2-3 o'clock in the morning, somebody important dies in the streets. That kicks off a war inside of here. Power struggle. You see, so it's what is taking place in Ecuador. They are emulating the same things that the cartel of Mexico and Colombia do. They're trying to get a complete control of the drug trade and the selling of the drug. So within the prisons, if one person dies on the street, 15 people die inside of here. And then all of the 15 people that died are not, let's say, gang members. It's just you're on the wrong unit. You live in the wrong cell. So, for example, if you're in our cell, if you look at our cell right now, I'll give you a glimpse of our cell. This is bed 1, this is bed 2, right? And then as you look up, there's 4 more beds. So there's 6 people per cell, right? So if I'm an enemy of someone, I cause the life of everyone in the cell. So when the people who come in for me, they just don't kill me. They kill everyone in the cell who don't have anything to do with it. Because
just wanted to play that. I don't want to keep going. Yeah, if you want to see that, it is shocking conditions. I just wanted to point that out. This isn't, an American prison which is very dangerous. This is an Ecuadorian prison. The guards don't run anything in these prisons. The prisoners run the prisons. I just wanted to make that point. I'll let someone else speak.
DC Rob, am I allowed? I guess I probably shouldn't show this, but I guess we can't show graphic videos here, right?
You mean the videos of the bad stuff that we shouldn't see?
Yeah. I guess we shouldn't show that here.
Yeah,
but,
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would
Okay.
never. I would never want anybody to even see that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wish I couldn't. I wish I could take it back. I mean, for the, weeks after that, that image was in my mind. The lack of respect for life was. It's bad. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't recommend looking at it. I mean, you can't take it away once you see it.
I've had to show that video to congressional staff to make them focus on how bad this is.
Yeah,
All right?
maybe they should see it. Yeah,
I make them see it because they have to see that this is not humans. This is like Lord of the Flies crazy, and these men are in trouble. And I'm glad Andre there played that video back. I mean the audio.
It's bad. Go ahead, reluctant Navi.
Okay, so I was writing down the names as y'all were naming them off. All right. So basically, for those videos, you can show them on Rumble though, and Odyssey, Odyssee. So by default, my old channels, my channel that have been shut down like a while back. My videos were default saved to Odyssey, Odyssee, which used to be LBRY back in the day. So that's an option. But one of the things that I was thinking about is we can start just on YouTube and whoever has channels, right? As a matter of fact, I just put up a video, a part of this live stream on TikTok, and on TikTok I have I have a video like in a day, just hit 4,000 views and stuff like that, and so I got a lot of people flooding in. If I get to 1,000 I guess subscribers or followers, then we could go live. If somebody is already there, we could talk about this live on TikTok. What I've noticed about TikTok, in a way, it's not for YouTube. Even though it's 3-minute videos, you can put messages out there, and you can target them at a group, or not target them at a group. But you will get a lot more people to share information on TikTok faster than on YouTube. But on YouTube, we can start going after these politicians by calling them out. Basically, get pictures of them and make videos and with titles like, is this person like of the people we named, are these people going to allow American citizens to be framed in Ecuador? The framing in Ecuador question mark. We put a question mark behind it. All right, we can put this up here. And one of the things that I've noticed is that Tulsi Gabbard is very, very big on TikTok and YouTube, but she's bigger on TikTok. And the thing about TikTok is it's 3-minute. I could post 10-minute videos now, but it's a 3-minute video platform. And if we get up there and just bum rush TikTok with information behind this case, those of us that create content on TikTok, we could get the word out enough that maybe out of a little shade of embarrassment, it may force the hand of some of these actors to actually act, or at least address the question, or act like this situation exists. And so most of us here I guess with the exception of you, Jason and Mr. Stephenson, Mr. Poblete, is that Poblete?
Poblete.
Mr. Poblete and Mr. Stephenson, I think most of the rest of us here are content creators. We're the commercials. We're the news media. We're the news media that got people to believe a bunch of false stuff that they're now crying about. All right, but we can give them the truth about this case on TikTok and YouTube. And I'm recommending TikTok because I noticed that I'll get a response. And if we put titles up here and ask questions like, are these politicians going to let citizens to hang out to dry in Ecuador? All right. And that's the type of questions we need to pose for each individual politician. So I got the names down. I'm going to have their pictures all up on, and I'm going to start with the ones that are up for re-election. And, but I'm going to call out the people that's running against them. If they get into office, will they do something about this situation? You know, that kind of a question. So, and see what happens.
Social media is something that we need to take advantage of. I'm not that familiar with it. Heck, I just started 2 months ago, and I had to pay somebody to set that up for me, and I still don't get it. TikTok is the easiest to post on, and then you can take it from there and post it somewhere else, you know, at the same time. But yes, I'm not that familiar with it. But I would be willing to pay to have some type of campaign on social media. I fell asleep on a documentary last night about the former president of the Philippines coming back, and it's probably going to be their next president. Marcos, Bong, whatever his name is. And he used social media, and the kids think he's great. They don't know anything about the parents, but they've captured and they change minds. The more you flood, I notice, the more you flood, you know, if I keep doing videos on oranges, I'll be known as the orange guy. And anything orange, I command. So we need to do the same thing, but for this subject, but continue to do this subject. That's why I'm asking you guys, yourself, Reluctant Navi, Stez World, Razor Rays, Strill Life, all you guys. I appreciate you guys coming on more than anything. Again, we are the media. You're right. We are the media at this point, whether it's on a low level or not. Somebody watching this knows somebody. Somebody watching this knows somebody that knows somebody, or knows somebody that knows somebody. We're always 3 and 4 degrees away from somebody who could make a difference, and could be very well be these congressmen that we're speaking of right now. So we do need the help. So anybody, and again, I'm unable to watch these comments on here. I saw a super chat come up and go away. So thank you so much for that. And I'll do a thank you in my next video for that too. If anybody here, again, Razor or Strill, if any of you guys see a question, I see Strill right now. So I'm gonna pop him in. But if anybody sees any questions that should be answered down there, let me know. Let me get you in, Strill. Mute.
Yes, I was watching the comments, and a couple of comments came up that are relevant to this discussion. And I think Jason's trying to take a break real quick too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I may have to step aside, but I just wanted to say we need the help, and I'm all about it. We'll give you all the names of all these politicians. As long as we keep it focused, there's a lot we can say quickly. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, if she can be somehow, we've reached out to her. She's tough to get a hold of now, but she has that bully pulpit. She can get out there and say stuff. That guy, Tucker Carlson on Fox News, he goes after everybody. Left, right, doesn't matter. We'll give you the names of who we got to put out there. And TikTok is a great platform. You're right. I don't know how to use it. I don't even have an account. So I have no idea what to do on TikTok. But if somebody can give us a hand with that, I'm sure we can give you plenty of people we can put out there and say, hey, why aren't you doing your job? Roger Carson is a good guy over at the State Department. He's former military. He's now the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs. I know he wants to take on this case. We got to give him the ammunition. This may be part of that process. I probably shouldn't be saying this in public, but that's okay. At this point, doesn't matter. We're trying to save lives here, and I think we have to get all hands on deck.
Can we reach out to him directly?
What was that?
Can we reach out to him directly?
Oh, I have. I reach out to him and his team, and they're fully briefed on the case. It's all. I don't want to say too much about what I think is the problem. I do believe, though, that public pressure can focus. Look, politicians respond to a few things. Every now and then, of course, you get a public servant who's a good person, does the right thing.
Mhm.
But you know what they respond to? They respond to money and they respond to pressure.
Right.
Yep.
So that's just the American political system, all right? It's the way it works. Pressure works. And these men should not be down there. We shouldn't have to be doing these shows, but we do have the media now to help us, especially these folks that want to come out and jump in. We'll help you. Just tell us what you need. I'll give you the ammunition. Mr. Stephenson will help you out. DC Rob, you've been doing this. Frankly, I learned a lot from DC Rob. That's one of the videos I first saw months ago when the Foley Foundation came to us. And I saw the show that you did with the brothers, and it was very compelling, very powerful, and it cut through a lot of information that we needed, and it was a big help.
Excellent.
That was
Thank you,
one of the
Jason.
questions. One of the questions is how can the people contact these congressmen and different people?
Strill, is your question for Jason?
That was it. If he can how to contact, but he can.
Oh yeah.
We can get the information later. Maybe you could put it in the description, like how to contact these different people. That's the only question for him, but he kind of that was in the chat. And the other question is there a GoFundMe set up for them to help with their legal fees or their hospital things of that nature? Anything they need, like is there a GoFundMe or some kind of campaign set up to help out the family and the brothers?
I don't believe there is. Jason, I know you have to go, so I really appreciate you for coming on. Prayers for you just being involved in all of this.
And there's the brothers have a good website, justiceecuador.com. There's a lot of information on there, and they can find their way to us, to them, justiceecuador.com, globallibertyalliance.org, DC Rob, Mr. Stephenson. Just look for any one of us, and we'll connect you to the right people. We'll make sure you get the resources you need and the support as well. That if you want to help out, I'm sure the family would welcome it at this difficult time.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
That's the only two things I had to say, Rob. I was just two questions I thought you might want to ask while Mr. Stevenson's on and everything, because people want to help out.
But there is no GoFundMe, correct, Mr. Stevenson?
No, there's no GoFundMe. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. Have a good evening. Okay.
Okay. You too, Jason. Thank you.
Take care, Robert. Bye bye.
Okay.
Bye bye. TC Strill.
Okay. For sure.
Okay. All right, Strill. Let me see who else had any questions. And again, if you see anything, if you read anything down there, Reluctant Nabi wants to jump in again. There you go, sir.
I just wanted to mention one thing that I was seeing in the comment section, right? And I read a few of these comments, and while this is not going to be an isolated case, right? Every place in the world is not bad all of a sudden because this happened to these guys there. Now, because this happened to these guys there, I know not to go there, but it's not going to stop me from dealing with the people in Colombia. It's not going to stop me from coming to Brazil. All right. If we're cognizant of the laws of other countries, what may or may not get you into trouble. All right. Especially based on experiences of people that have been in these places. Like, I'm comfortable with Colombia because there's a lot of brothers that live in Colombia. All right. And this is going out to all them people that want to put that fear up there. We've been on that tree. Our ancestors been on trees in America. And the police have had their way with the 6-shooter in our domes while riding around in cars, even when we're complying. And so bad stuff happens anywhere. So this is not a reason to be afraid, but we need to pay attention to everybody's government and see how they operate. All right. In Brazil, they operate different from the way they're doing it in Ecuador. There are things I wouldn't recommend you doing, but if you don't do them things, you'll be all right. And for those that follow me, and I see some of y'all in the thing, y'all know that I hang out in the worst part of Brazil because those are the people that I teach. Those are the people I volunteer for. That's where I pass out most of the soccer balls because that's who need it. When I go to Colombia, I'll be in the hoods, so to speak. But so long as I don't do certain things, I follow the ways of the people that I'm going to visit, I'm okay. I wouldn't go to Ecuador, but I knew this before that. I pay attention to government. So if people pay attention to how people run their justice systems, their governments and stuff, you'll know who be more friendly to us. And look at where some of the other people are going and have stayed. Like we know a lot of people in Medellin. We know Medellin can be off the chain, but we still know brothers still making it. So you got a support group there. So when you go to Medellin, like dcbornrob, and the dude with the glasses. I know the dude with the glasses because he was in Barranquilla before he went to Medellin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so not you NWO guy with the glasses, the other one, I forget his name.
Carlton.
But he was in Barranquilla. All right, and so before he was in Barranquilla during the pandemic when they were shut down, and I remember he went to the beach and it was, so a lot of brothers, if you don't know what you're doing, go where you see a lot of other people going that's putting out information because it's on YouTube. Before I go somewhere new, I'll go on YouTube and say, "What's up in Sosua?" Oh, there's a bunch of people that's been there that tell you what's going on. All right, what's up in this place? If you don't see a bunch of videos pop up about that area and you're new, don't know the language, stay away. Period. If you can't get the research on where you're at, stay away until you can get some research about the government, the police state, what it's like to go out. We already know when you go to Medellin, don't go on the dating apps and then accept a drink from. We know that from dcbornrob. Don't be drinking everything, right? Watch who you take home. See, we know these things are because people have done that work for us. And so if we do research and figure out what's the government right, what's the scams going, what scams are going on, and base that on what you want to do, that's how you deal with whether you go somewhere or not. You don't do anything in fear.
Okay, now I want to put this out that the Stephenson brothers did do due diligence before they moved down. They did nothing wrong. They immersed themselves in the culture. They hired indigenous. Indigenous worked on the property. They had a club that had ethnic activities geared towards the indigenous. They did everything that they were supposed to be. I think it was an issue of that he was so popular, Roger, he could have run for mayor. That's how popular he was. So believe they did due diligence before they went down. And I'm not saying that Ecuador is bad. I did a video not too long ago about Ecuador. There's a lot of people in Ecuador that love Ecuador. There's a lot of Afro-Americans, a lot of Afro-Ecuadorians that are there too. There is a group, and I had hoped that Miguel would come on, Mr. Stephenson. There is a group of individuals down there that are assisting the brothers that have helped with medication and running around and all kind of stuff. And they haven't been in the limelight, but we are thankful to them. They have done a lot. So Miguel, shout out to you. Razor, did you want to jump in with something?
Yes, right quick. And off of what you just said, some people might say, why would the brothers go out to Ecuador anyway? Because Ecuador is a place where tourists like to go. I have a couple of people in my inner circle that have been to Ecuador recently. But I wanted to say, Mr. Stephenson, I know this is very, very hard for you. And that's why we need to move fast on trying to get the brothers out, because I found this article, and this article is from May 9th, 2 days ago, from Ecuador. Now, I don't know what prison the brothers are in. I know one has been moved because of the whole cancer issue. But this says from Alerta Pesa, at least 43 dead in new prison riot in Ecuador. This is from 2 days ago, right? Mm-hmm. And it's from the riot took place in the Bella Vista prison, province of Santo Domingo de los Sachilas, all right, when two criminal gangs clashed. So this is not a matter of just, two brothers are locked up abroad unjustly and will be in there for the rest of their life. No, this is a matter of life and death that we got to get them out now, because it could be a death sentence. Who knows when the next riot would happen in one of these prisons, and they could get caught up in the middle. You know, so I wanted to read that we can't just
absolutely.
politicians can't keep just waiting, kicking the can down the road like the politicians like to say. They love to say, kick the can down the road. No, this is a matter of life or death.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
May I jump in?
Exactly.
Rob?
I'm sorry.
Actually, I'm in Ecuador now as we speak. Okay, I'm here visiting my sons, especially Renelle. So I'm in a city called Cuenca, and then probably another day or two, I go to the next city where John to visit with him. Okay, the riot that you're talking about that occurred a few days ago has two significance. One, 6 out of the 44 people who were killed were their friends that got transferred from the prison that they were all in. Okay, and the reason why they got transferred was the prison they were all in was supposed to only house about 1,500 prisoners. They had 4,000 in there. So the new president, when he came in, started sending prisoners back to their locations in the areas where they're from. And so 6 of these guys who got killed were in the same prison they were, but they were transferred back to this other prison, which is to their local location. The other thing is, the riot started because the gang leader that was in the prison with them, and this prison is called Turi, got taken out in April when they had a riot, and 20-something of them got killed in that same prison called Turi. And out of the 20-something that got killed, 12 was their friends. Matter of fact, one of them was their roommate. Another one used to work out with them every day with weights. And then one next door to them, which is a Black Ecuadorian, was a very good friend of it. They all got killed. And that's something that I'm putting out something that DC Rob, I'm going to send it to you. I'm hoping once you guys see it, it's going to blow some people's mind off the chain, because these guys are literally missing it by just steps. Okay, this last prison riot that occurred was based on the gang leader for the prison that they were in, Turi. He was taken out in April and put in solitary confinement with 5 other gang leaders in a place in an area called Guayaquil. But he was able to pay off some judges to be removed from solitary confinement to this prison where they had this big uprising a couple of days ago. So when he got there, the gang that controlled that prison wanted to kill him, but he still had a lot of supporters in that prison. So in their pursuit to get him, they had to kill a lot of the followers, but they were able to get him out of prison before he got killed. So they yanked him out. But the whole thing is, it's sad, and it's sad because the prison uprising in the prison that they were in Turi, the 12 buddies that they got killed, some of them were only be able to identify because the kind of clothes they wore made my sons be able to identify them, because some of them, their heads were cut off. And so the only thing they could have identified them, because they normally wear a certain type of clothes all the time. You know, some of them, their feet were cut off and stuff like that. But the place is deadly. I mean, and many of this, one of the things that people would say, well, how could the indigenous people be of so those people have no value for life. Why they don't have value for life? Because when they're on the street, their day-to-day existence is very minuscule. So to them, life has no meaning. Okay, they live and they go by the day. They don't have money at times. They don't have things to eat at times. They don't have anyone that care about them. So they literally live a life
of no value. So when they go in there, they're also treated very inhumane. They don't have a bed. They lie on concrete floors. They don't get food sometimes. They don't have clothes. They don't have money because they don't have money on the street. So when they go in there, they won't have no money. And so the gangs approach them and say, listen, we can provide you with a bed. We can provide you with clothes. All we want you to do is do what we want you to do. And you're going to have food every day. So any young mind will go for that is survival, okay? The other thing that one will say, and I hear Nabi's talking about learning and trying to be familiar with the area where you are. This Samarando who is pushing, it was about money. Why it was about money? Because John, after he moved there, a young man, he did lots of things, and they couldn't understand where a young Black man could have that kind of wherewithal to do what he was doing. He wasn't working for anyone. He wasn't doing, but he was making money by doing the things that were 100% legal. This same Samarando, his son that died, was one of John's best friend. He worked on the farm. He was arrested and jailed for child support. John bailed him from jail, paid the child support, and when he was working on the farm, continued to pay child support to keep him out of jail. This same Samarando used to thank him for doing it because he didn't do it for his own son. So it's not an issue of him not being acclimated within the society. That's the reason why the local policemen did not want to come to the farm and did not go to the farm because they knew the farm was not what was described by the prosecutor. The local people would have testified up and down, but the Samarandas threatened to kill them and the judges. So the case had to be removed from that area where they charged them and moved to another court and another jurisdiction that is 2 hours away. And I could post pictures and show you that how the judges were so scared at the trial. There was a bus load of police that came in every day, a Greyhound-sized bus with policemen to protect the whole area because the indigenous people said they will kill the judges, they will kill everybody if they don't get the results they want.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that a lot of times people, I understand the judges, they have to live there. The defense attorney, the lead defense attorney that we used was a prosecutor in that area for over 20-something years. He was also a law professor, and he was also the professor who taught the prosecutor who tried the case. Okay, so he knew that there's no way they're going to win the case because he said if they win, he will never practice law again. But on top of that, he was the prosecutor who tried to prosecute the Samaranda that committed 2 prior murders. He had killed things. So there's a long history. His father was a judge in that area. And when he convicted one of the Samaranda's family, they put a contract on his life and they had to move his father from that jurisdiction overnight to another location because it was going to kill him and his family. So it's an area that, you don't know, because if you go there, you would honestly believe it's one of the best areas to be. The people seem to be nice. Everybody's going on. The only thing you hear under the surface is, be careful of those folks. These are indigenous people. Be careful. Okay? It was a big shakedown issue because the attorneys that the Samarandos hired wanted big time money. One of them committed a crime just so that he could be on the same unit with John to do the shakedown. And he kept telling John, if you give me this amount of money, I'll find a way to let things disappear. Okay, so it's not about a crime, it's about money. Okay, so, and you don't know this. But one of the things that I used to say to my sons, I said, guys, you cannot live in an area where 90% of the people are poor, and you do certain things in a way that gives the impression that you got it all, people are going to come after you for it. And a simple thing like myself and wife going there to visit or to help them on the farm, we come off the farm, we will catch the bus to go into the town or to go where we want to go. They will call a taxi to pick them up from the farm. They will call a taxi in the town and tell the taxi to go and pick up the food that they order to bring it to the farm. This is before Uber Eats even came out. They were doing Uber Eats over there. Most of the people over there couldn't afford a taxi for themselves. They were getting a taxi to go and pick up their food and bring it to the farm. So I said, you guys don't understand. I said, but Dad, we're not doing anything wrong. I said, well, you're giving a bad impression. People think you got a ton of money. You're young guys, and you think, we took the farm, turned it around. It looked like a little city with street lights and all of that. People start coming. Then he set up a club and was making money. And many of the bars and liquor places in town had to close by 2 o'clock in the morning because his bar was, a nightclub was on a farm. It was considered a reservation based on the size. He had no law to control that. So he could open all the way till next day. And the police couldn't shut him down. Nobody could shut him down. So the big businessmen in town start losing money. They were threatened. They said, he's stealing the show. And the only thing that didn't make his life more miserable before that was because the police were saying, at least he was getting a lot of the young people off the street because they had a place to go, a place to hang out. And so they weren't getting involved in crimes. They could go there, they could go to the farm, they drink a few beers, they get drunk, and nobody will bother them because they get drunk on the farm, they could pass out in the grass, they could pass out on the driveways. And so they are safe. When they were in town, there were always some issue. So that was one of the things. But I always said to John, these people are setting you up for many reasons. Because when he wasn't training for Mr. Universe, which he won twice in Ecuador, he will not go into the town. And so when he did go into town, sometimes some of the old people who had stores that liked him, because he would donate a lot of the produce from his farm when he didn't get rid of it to them so they can sell and make money. Somebody would say to him, John, I see you in a while. Were you locked up? And he would say, no, why would I be locked up? And I would say to him, son, do you see the message? And he would say to me, Dad, they must be stupid. I don't do anything to get locked up. I said, but son, the old policy and principles have always been, if a blind man tells you he's going to pelt you with a stone, he already has a stone in his hand. He can't go looking for a stone, he's blind. So somebody's trying to set you up. And this is not the first time they tried to set him up. Twice before, the police came after him. Because one time, some guys got knocked down off their motorcycle and one of them died. Because right where the entrance to the farm is around the S-bend. And so these guys on the motorcycle always coming fast. And many times, because the farm leads right onto a highway, it's not like some down or some dirt road. So that's another reason that made the farm a very popular place that people wanted after he developed it. So these guys got knocked down. And the truck driver who knocked them down said they came off his farm from the nightclub and it was that they were drunk. Fortunately, John did not have the nightclub open that day. Because it was during the week, or Wednesday. But the police came after him and said he was responsible for their death, and tried to arrest him. So it wasn't the first time he was being threatened to be locked up. But he just didn't see it happening to him. Because he acclimated to the people. Whenever they have their carnival, he used to sponsor the indigenous groups. He used to donate money to the town. He donated his trophy when he won Mr. Ecuador twice to the town, made the town became popular on the map. So he was not somebody who was just a loaf
just trying to extract. He was part of the city.
Well, we're just going to go for a few more minutes, but Mr. Stephenson, I know my heart, and I'm sure a whole lot of other people's hearts goes out to you.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't ask you before, I didn't put up front is, how are you? How is your wife? How are Roger and Ronell doing today, as of today? Like, how is everybody?
Okay. Ronell is doing a little better than he was when I was here a month ago. Because when I was here a month ago, I had to spend a month, because when I came in February, I honestly thought I was going to lose him. Because when I came in, he was just getting over. They had to stop his chemotherapy around the 19th of January because he came down with COVID. And when I came in around on the 5th of February, he had tested negative on COVID, but 2 days after I was here, because he was complaining of getting fever all the time, feeling chilly, and he wasn't eating at all. He wasn't eating for a couple of weeks. And so when they ran the test to find out what was going on, he had gotten TB. So that was going to take him out, because, you know, before Ronell got sick, he was like 180 pounds. But they used to work out with weights a lot and stuff every day. In February, when I saw him, he was down to 105. So I had to dig in and fight in every which way to get him to come around. And so he's gradually coming around. I mean, just this afternoon before I left the hospital, I had the nurse weigh him, and he was up to 120. So
that's good.
Yeah, he is definitely coming around. They had to take him off of chemo. They had to put him on a new drug called Keytruda, Keytruda. It's made by Merck. It's a drug that goes directly to the tumor instead of what chemo goes to killing all the cells. This drug attack only the tumors that are the places where the tumors could develop. But it's a very expensive drug, but it's about life. So I allowed them to put him on it, and that's what he started to take. So he's doing much better. John, I'm going to see him on Friday, which is 7 hours away from where I am. I have to fly to the capital, and then my driver takes me to the city where he is, which is 7 hours drive. So I go and see him and spend probably a day with him. And then I come back to the Quito and then come back to Cuenca where Ronell is, because he needs more of attention. John is doing much better. Why he's doing much better? Because the prison where they moved him finally is not as dangerous as where he came from. So the prisoners in that institution have respect for people who come from the institution that he came from, because they know fully well that the institution that he came from, if you wink too hard, they cut your neck off. So they know to themselves that if nothing else, he might be indoctrinated into that mentality too. So he's not having the kind of trouble that he had with the other place. So there's a little more respect for where he is than where he came from. But like I said, he was extremely fortunate to get out of there just in the nick of time, because the gang leader begged him to do whatever it took to get away from that institution, because he knew there was going to be a mass killing and he didn't want him to be there at that time. So he just got out just in the nick of time, a month and a half, 2 months before he got the transfer. So he's much happier there. The sad part about it is that the U.S. Embassy is kind of bragging about what they did.
They did
nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, the sad part about it is that not only they're bragging and telling their congressmen and senators in the US that they're on top of things, when they sat into the hearing for John and Renelle to be officially transferred, the judge that was the female judge lit into the Bureau of Prisons here and said to the attorney that represented the Bureau of Prisons, what you guys have done, moving these guys from where they were, which was the place where John is back now, was an illegal move. They had no right to move them. But the only reason they were moved there from where they were was so that they would have been killed. That's what because the Samaranda was connected to the governor of that area. And since he couldn't get the money he wanted, he was able to get the warden to move them illegally one night at 3 a.m. to this high-level prison, where many of them, people that go there, if you don't align yourself with somebody who got your back, you're history. You're history. And that's the thing that they thought. Matter of fact, amazingly, when John got back to that place where he is now, he was once standing talking to some of the guards that knew him. And they said to him, oh, it's the old warden that got you moved. And the guy was just coming into the prison. And the warden looked at him and said, what? How did you get back here? And John said, because I came for you. And the guards looked and shook their head. And he just shook and walked away because he knew what he did was dirty. The judge told the attorneys for the prison, what you guys did is completely illegal. And I'm issuing an order for both of those young men to be removed back immediately, not 2 days from now, not 1 week from now, immediately. So John got a removal from that deadly prison in 1 day because the judge was highly upset. He said, what you guys did, you had no right to move them. But that's how the system works.
dcbornrob and audience, before I have to leave it, I wanted to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to discourage people from traveling. I just came back to the United States from somewhere in Latin America. And I traveled throughout the world. What I am saying to you, you young brothers, and I'm much older than you all, anybody on this panel, you have to be organized.
Yeah.
I would urge you, as others, you know, what you all are called transnationals. You're Americans in another country. You should be in touch with your embassy. You should be registered to vote in your district. You should keep your official residence in the United States. Now, I'm not a lawyer practicing, but I can tell you this. It is actually a crime to attack an American. Now, we have a case right now that's in Colombia. I'm not working on that case as hard as I want to work on it because I'm working on the case of these two young men who are living. But I can tell you, if you all don't organize, I'm not knocking y'all party. In fact, I would known about you all, Razor Rays and all the rest of you all, if I didn't watch the channel. I enjoy watching the channel. I'm glad to see African American men explore the world. That's in our tradition. But I do want you to know that wherever you are, I know y'all in Colombia, Sweet Georgia Cafe. One day I'm gonna come down and visit y'all. But I would feel much better if you had an NAACP chapter, you had some organization. This is the big problem with African Americans when they go to Paris, when they go to Africa. They say, no, I don't want to talk to another American. And you're making a big mistake. Because what happened to these two young men could happen to you. And I'm going to tell you something now. One of the things that really, that I pressured, I don't want to put on no bragging hat, but I tell you, during that time, once I found out that, and that's when I discovered that my cancer had progressed. That's when I called the State Department. And I Mr. Stephenson, with all due respect, unfortunately, I curse sometimes. So forgive, I am an Imam, but I'm an imam from Northwest that worked also in Southeast Washington. So I tell you, I used to, and I told them, y'all don't get those young men out of there because they know that they were illegal. I mean, that's a part of the American treaty. And then, so the State Department and the consular's office now want to take credit for this.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying, but I'm saying to you all, if Mr. Stephenson didn't have the resources and dcbornrob didn't have the wherewithal, and I was aggressive enough to reach him, and your researcher reached me, and I'm not bragging, but I'm about 2 steps below the White House. I can reach somebody anywhere in the United States and outside the United States. So it is important. Again, I don't want nobody all in Brazil or anywhere else to get the impression that I'm not telling you to travel, but I'm telling you to be organized, because people are suspicious, jealous of Americans, and they also are doubly jealous of you all. So I tell y'all 2 things: be on your best behavior wherever you are, but also be organized. Register to vote. Because if you were to come to me and you tell me you're not registered to vote, I can't do nothing for you. I really can't. It's very difficult to do anything for you. See, when I call these Congress people up, first thing they ask me, are they registered to vote? And I assume they are. But this is what happened. You have to do that. That's why I'm just emphasizing to you all. I don't want you all to get the impression, my dear brother, get your passport. I don't want to knock. I want African Americans to travel all over the world. But know that there's a lot of jealousy, know that there's a lot of envy, know that there's suspicion. But if you're organized and carry yourself right, you should let the embassy know, the consulate know where you are. Because I tell you who else knows where you are. These terrorist groups know where you are. And the CIA knows where you are. And the FBI knows where you are. So all of those people, all of this can work to your advantage if you all, those of you in Brazil, African Americans in Brazil, y'all should be organized. The African Americans in Ecuador, be organized. Then when we come for you, we can tell you an organized group of people, and then we can start putting pressure on other people, because these people are organized people. And I think, Mr. Stephenson, there is a group of expatriates that is beginning to do that in Ecuador. And I heard that that's happening in Colombia.
Yeah.
I heard, I'm working on a case even in Nicaragua. And we've been able to have some good relationships with Nicaragua to help get somebody out of jail there. So, you know, all I'm saying, as you travel, understand you're not an individual. You're part of a group. And I took on this case not because I have any political connection. I don't even know you. Again, I respect so much dcbornrob. First, I was watching the show for entertainment purpose until I saw the case of the Stephenson brothers. And the other case in Colombia, I haven't forgotten that case. And we're going to continue to put pressure on the United States government and the Colombian government to bring criminal prosecution against the murderer in Barranquilla. And also, eventually, Interpol is going to get this criminal down in Ecuador. I guess I won't travel to Ecuador. But that criminal is going, we expect to come to Ecuador and bring those young men home.
I will be in Ecuador. I've always wanted to go to Ecuador. I'm not going until the brothers are free. I told them I will be there when they are released. When you mentioned the group, I put my scroller up, a ticker at the bottom to remind people to join our group in Colombia, but that's for Colombia. I encourage everybody to travel. I don't care what color. Even the racist people who are here in this country need to travel to understand that there is more than just—
It broadens your world. But you see, but travel, if you're in the Philippines, be organized in the Philippines. If you're in Guam, be organized, because it's always good. Isn't it something, and I'm going to shut up after this, an Irishman who hadn't been to County Cork in 200 years would tell you he's an Irishman. Now, you haven't been there, because he identifies as Irishman. People identify around nation states. And therefore, don't think the Irish embassy won't help that person or put pressure on that. We know that there's another group in this country. If one of our citizens, who are not even one of our dual citizens, they're protected. So let us Let us stop being immature. Go and have fun, but be organized so bad things won't happen to you. Because let me tell you something, strong people are not attacked. Weak people are attacked. Now, I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about groups. The young men are strong, have a strong father. I met that family. And Mr. Stevens may not know this. I had made an extensive investigation of you and your children before I get involved. And that's why, because I said I'm not going to front myself off going to somebody, ask them to defend somebody, and I don't know anything about the case. So I had gotten a copy of the transcript, and I had read it, and I had someone translate for me, and I had somebody from Ecuador that knows the Ecuadorian legal system, and they told me this is a travesty. So I was halfway through it, and I know law enough well enough to know it's a travesty. So dcbornrob, keep doing what you're doing. God bless you all. Continuously know that Imam Alfred Muhammad is on your side. I've just started a ministry, and part of that ministry is to assist us overseas. Thank you. Peace be on you.
There you go. Thank you, Imam.
I'm out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody else who's joined us today. Andre, I'm going to jump Andre back in. Hang on. Did you fall off? Did you fall off your chair? You're still muted too.
Yes,
and anybody else that wanted to jump in, anybody else that had any messages? Obviously, I have not caught up with text today. There's no way I could jump on the text, but we're just going to go a couple more minutes. So, Andre, do you have something? Your mic.
Yes, Razor Rays made a good point. You know, when I did the podcast episode with the brothers, it was surprising. There were some people saying, well, why would you leave America, the greatest country on earth, and go over to Ecuador?
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying things like this, right? And this is, I just want to play this recording, another little recording, and this is what his reply was. And I thought it was really, really interesting. I think everyone here should hear him out, what he has to say about it. And after this, I unfortunately will have to go as well.
Yeah,
but
no worries.
I want you guys to listen real quick.
You know, even though you don't understand why we move abroad or why would we leave such a great America, don't let that stop you from helping us to have justice, to help us get us our freedom. You know, our decision in life and our path in life doesn't have to be exactly yours. Just look at our situation and see that it's wrong. Because I see when people say, oh man, what you doing in Iraq? What you doing in Afghanistan? What you doing in Ecuador? What you doing? Why can't we be there? That's a terrible mindset. Why can't, imagine if you start to say that to each other in America, then that's bad. What were you doing over there in that part of your state? You shouldn't be there. You're from this city. You shouldn't be. Hey, where do we draw the line? My thing is, once you have a passport, that is a luxury that America gives us that a lot of countries do not have the privilege of having. They get to travel. So why would I not take advantage of that great privilege of using my passport to see the world, to go live someplace, to go and experience something different? So I want all Americans to when they look at this situation, people, not just Americans, Canadians, Europeans, Australians, everyone that is looking at this situation to understand, don't be deterred to go live abroad and travel. This is your life to live. But your family member, just to tell your family members, like, hey man, don't forget about me when I go over to these places. Don't think because I'm going there, I'm abandoning you. I'm just trying to do something different. And don't abandon me because I'm doing something different. You know? Continue to support me, continue to pray for me, continue to love me, you know. Just don't be like, oh man, you went out there to live the fancy life. No. I'm just wanting to do something different. And that shouldn't be wrong.
Knowing everything you know now, would you still go to Ecuador?
That's all. And I just wanted to leave with that. I thought that was just really, really powerful. There's a few things too. I asked him, if you knew everything you know now, would you still do, or would you still do what you did? Or Another question was trying to remember. His answers were very, very, very interesting. I definitely recommend everyone to check it out. Very, very articulate with his answers, and I feel so horrible. I've rewatched it again, and just to remind myself before I came on this live, it's very, very, very sad and disgusting what's happening to these people. And I'm so sorry to you, Mr. Stephenson, for what you're going through. I could only imagine, and I'm so sorry for that. I'm from Latin American descent, and to see, I'm half Peruvian. I live near Ecuador, and I know what those parts are like, and it's very, very unfortunate that this is happening. And I'm going to keep doing everything in my power to bring more awareness, continue to do what I need to do with the audience that I have. And the TikTok idea is a great idea because I actually have had a pretty good following on there. So, and I know exactly how I would go about it to bring more attention to it.
Well, teach
so I have
me.
a few ideas.
Teach me. I need to learn how to do it, and now's the time to do it. I mean, I'll pay somebody.
Yeah.
Help
I
me. If you
recommend
know
it.
how to do it, I'm all ears.
No, I recommend TikTok. It's unbelievable. I think on one video I got like 8 million views.
8
You know what I
million.
mean? 8 million. So it's not, TikTok is no game. I mean, if you do it right. No, I'm sorry.
What kind of video?
It was the court corruption case that I did.
You have so many, man. I sat here. I have another monitor here and another one in the back, and I put that on while I'm working sometimes, and I watch all the First Amendment audits and all that stuff. I love that stuff. When you walked in the police station, I would be nervous. I would do it, but I know your heart is pumping when they're telling you, then they try to say, "Oh, you've been drinking." I saw that.
You saw
that.
that.
Yeah. Oh, cops pull everything that they pull out of it.
Right. Me. If I feel like my heart's in the right place, I'm scared in that moment. You don't see it, but I'm afraid. I know what's gonna happen, but I stand my ground. It's one of those things where it's just, I want this to be resolved immediately. And it just it bothers me. It bothers me so much, and it doesn't go away. And that's why we're all here. That's why we're all good at what we do.
Hey, well, thanks so much, and give me all the tips. 8 million hits. That's why you got so many subscribers. I need to figure. I just started 2 months ago, so any help it'd be greatly appreciated on that.
No, absolutely.
Everybody,
absolutely. If any of you guys want to connect with me as well, and please do so. And if you need any help with anything, I've been doing this a while now, so I can definitely help anyone out. I'm open book. Mr. Stephenson, thank you so much for being here and for hearing me out. I have the utmost respect for you and what you're doing. And, you have hopefully you have my contact information if you need anything from me as well.
DC Rob, can you make sure you share my contact? I would love to be connected to each and every one of you. And I would wish that if each and every one out to me in any which way you can, I'm willing to share with you any and all information that I have. And I'm willing to be available to answer any and all questions that anyone might have, to clear up any issues or doubts that you might have about the case. I'm also willing to work with any one of you and all of you, not only just for my son's case, because, there might be the tip of the iceberg. There might be others out there that might not have the wherewithal to be able to do what I would have been blessed to do, and to be able to stay in the process and be able to fight all the way through. I mean, it's very shocking over here because many Ecuadorians never saw or never thought that I would have had this staying power, this ability to sustain this long. But, I've been blessed, and that blessing has been able to allow me to do what I'm doing, and a lot of times people will say, well, it's got to be more than just that. Well, it is definitely blessings. I mean, just taking into consideration, forget about the legal fees, forget about the travels and stuff like that, but just Ronell's medical cost is astronomical. And so, but it's about life, you know, and sometimes you have to put value where it's worth and where it's good. You know, lots of people put value after someone dies, and then that's not the way I think it should be. You know, if you can do it when they're alive, if the consequences come so that they die, at least you would have solace in your heart to know that you did the best. You know, and so that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm trying to give them the best because that's the thing. The other thing that a lot of people don't know, my kids, especially my two sons, I have three kids, two boys and a girl. We traveled a lot. Every summer, we went to different countries. So my sons, them, are widely traveled. They've been to many countries, many places, at times by themselves. So coming to Ecuador was not a strange thing to them. The other thing that made it most possible for them to do what they did is that from the time my kids were anywhere between 8 and 9 years old, I used to put them in summer camps. And those camps, they would be away from us sometimes for 3 weeks to a month with no connection to parents. So they have learned early in life to go off and make life on their own from a very young age. And that helped a great deal because when it was time for them to go to college, they never had no separation anxiety. They went off and they wanted to go to college far away. They didn't want anything close by. So this is something that was indwelled in them for a long time. It's not something they just woke up and decide they're going somewhere else. Okay. John went and came to Ecuador before he actually decided to buy a farm here and move to Ecuador. He came on a summer program to work on an ecotourist farm for about 2 months before he made that effort to finally make that decision. So lots of people say we just up and made a move. No, John also studied the reason and benefits of making that trip and making that move. Ecuador only used US currency. And he said to me, Dad, if I go to Ecuador and I bring some of American technology, American know-how, I can be a millionaire within 2 or 3 years. Because a millionaire in Ecuador is a millionaire in the United States. And so that was one of his thoughts. So, and he did not just pack up and move. I still have his book, his notebook of the plans that he had, how he was going to implement those plans step by step. So it was not just a up and run, just a dream, And so there was a lot of planning in his action. But like in anything else in life, while you're planning to do something, other people are planning for you too. And that part, I don't think he calculated on.
It's a shame because it sounds like they had the community's best interest at heart. I mean, the way they were helping out and they're integrated into the community. It just leads to jealousy. I mean, the only thing I can see is people were jealous of what they were doing or their blessings.
Yes. But here's the other thing I wanted to say. So I'll use an experience. So this trip to Brazil, I was hit by a motorcycle that was coming up a one-way street while I was looking in the way of oncoming traffic. It destroyed the motorcycle. Bank machine took my money, right? But because of the people that I knew here, Brazilians, all right, basically at the NGO, I was covered. I wasn't really hurt, but I had people look after me, but I was just sore for a couple of days, right? But I had people that were concerned here in Brazil. And when we talk about somebody that builds a farm, obviously they researched. And this is why I said people shouldn't be afraid to travel. Just do research before you do that. know something there. What we can't know is when I was hit by the motorcycle, and the reason why I use this is I was looking in the direction that traffic is supposed to be coming. There was a bunch of motorcycles. And as this motorcycle got faster and faster, I didn't know what was coming from behind because I was looking ahead in the direction stuff was supposed to come. I got hit. Now, the fact of the matter is that I was covered because of who I knew already, because of the relationships that I made. And this is why I say, if you are a new traveler, you need to look at some of these videos. Don't go anywhere till you looked at some of these videos. You got somebody that's been everywhere. If you can't find a video of somebody that's been there, and let's say you want to travel more than just a 2-week and live in a resort, then I would go someplace to where there's some familiarity. With saying that, with these brothers, can you imagine if they didn't do research and if they didn't know people and if we didn't know they were there?
Mhm.
Can you imagine what would happen to the guy was saying we need to do a group. dcbornrob, he contacted me on WhatsApp because we basically have a group. All right,
Okay.
stuff happened and we all just came together like Voltron. See what I mean? And other people are getting involved. Can you imagine if this group didn't exist? dcbornrob didn't exist, because I first got this from dcbornrob. I have some of the people that's from my channel in the comments section, and they know about this because of videos I did, but the videos I did was because of the information I got from dcbornrob. You see what I'm saying? So we have this group. It's just that when we get together, the thing that makes us different from when YouTube first started out, I was getting million views per video, right? But people act like it was a competition. So brothers were shutting other brothers down to try to get their audience. And this is a different thing now. You got more brothers, the travel brothers. You got more people traveling, not shutting each other down, but coming together. And so we do have something here. And not only that, out of the love and wanting people to be aware, a lot of people here got videos out that people can go to for almost any area in South America, any country in South America almost. There's a bunch of people that got some videos of traveling brothers that got videos of making people aware, right? And so this is what I mean by be aware, don't be afraid. Be aware, don't be afraid. We got a group, and what makes this group dangerous is we coming together because of a cause. But
I do want
you
to say,
can't put a label.
I do want to add on to that. This is something I live by. I travel often, and I always say to everyone, when I do cheers with somebody, and I say salud, right, and we're about to have a drink together, I say salud to la vida es de relaciones. Life is all about relationships. Build those relationships with people. You never know who you're talking to. You never know when you might need help. And I've lived by that. And thank God nothing like this has happened. You know, I've been okay. And I just want to leave it at that. My friends, I do have to go, unfortunately. It was an honor to be speaking and meeting all of you. You, Mr. Stephenson, please take care. Be safe, everyone. And God bless, all right?
Okay,
appreciate it, Andre. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're going to slow it up. If anybody else wanted to put in a couple of words before this, let me.
Let me thank Mr. Stephenson too for being here. It's nice to meet. You know, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
See real life, but then again, it's the group.
Yeah, exactly.
We never know you existed.
Thank you. I'm glad I know of the group, and I would like to stay with the group or in the group, not only for the sake of my sons, but as we go forward, because I'm sure I have some levels of knowledge to share for anyone who comes along after because I'm sure this is not going to be the last case of this type. And so, I will always want to be able to lend my experience and resources to anyone, because life is such that if you don't share, then you just leave that vacuum for someone else to fall into, And so I definitely would like to be able to be always in touch and for people to keep my information, and especially my son's information, because they have gained a wealth of knowledge from this situation and this predicament. And I'm sure they can share with lots and lots of folks about what are the things, the pitfalls to look for, the pitfalls to not to be careful about, and to look up in every which way, So it's something that a lot of times, too many of us, after we get out of a predicament, we tend to feel, well, okay, now it's not anymore our trouble, so we move on. I don't think, at least myself and my sons have always said they would like to continue to share and to make people aware and alert of what the things that they can get into. So thanks to you guys all for being able to have your input. And thanks again, DC Rob, you have been a driving force. I like to alert you that I have a response email that I'm going to be sending out in another day or two, DC Rob, and I had to take it a step up, another level up. And I trust that once you see this email, you wouldn't be appalled.
Amen. Let's go. Let's go. Again, let me go back over. The reps are David Trone, Chris Van Hollen, and Ben Cardin. There's so many hoops you have to jump through. I know that I was involved between this case and the other case, the Reed case, is getting approval for Ben Cardin. Well, I need the rights to get involved. So now that you have to send something to them, they need to sign it, you need to send it back. Well, what about Chris Van Hollen? Well, okay, well, he didn't get that one. Well, no, his staffer needs it. And they go and meet. And yes, thanks to if hopefully he's sticking around and still watching this right now, he's done a hell of a lot of work on this case and everyday communication with the brothers when we had that opportunity. Up until now, he sent me all stuff all day long and probably sent me messages while we were going through this. But remember, Dave August is running against David Trone. And that's the person that's going to put the heat on him. And for Chris Van Hollen, it's Michelle Smith and James Taranton. Those are the people that are going to run. So they're going to lean back and go, look, what are you doing? They're going to take every advantage to win. I mean, it's all about winning. And so I don't care if they're Republican, Independent, Democrat, it doesn't matter. One of them, I think, said independent. But I have my group, but that's mostly for Columbia. But this group right here and everybody else, Carlton, we had a couple people that couldn't make it at the last minute, like Check and Effect was going to join us and then he couldn't. But everybody that's here, if we will spread this word out. And now, you met Mr. Stephenson. He's willing to come on your show, I'm sure, and speak to your audience and spread the word even further. So thank you all for joining us. To all of you guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll cut out here unless anybody else wanted to add some more to it.
Hey, Mr. Stephenson, if you can send me your contact.
Okay,
I have to. Yeah, and so we could talk about this on my my other one. My other channel is bigger than this one.
Okay.
And so
all of them. I will ask DC Rob to send me everyone's contact, and I will definitely reach out to you individually, be it be either email or WhatsApp or text, whatever method or means you have. I take the time to make sure I touch base with every single soul.
And Rob, you can send him my information.
Yes. Okay, great. I appreciate that.
I'll probably see him when I get back. I'll probably reach out to you when I get back to the United States.
Okay, fantastic. And so
I'll reach out to you sooner, but I'm talking about DC Rob. Show him how to use TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, I need the lessons. Okay, to Stephen, appreciate it. Reluctant Navi, Strill Life, Razor Rays, and Mr. Stephenson, thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
Let's get to work.
Take care.
Guys, have a good night. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Rob, for having me on.
Rob.
Hey,
Thanks.
blessings, man. Thank you, guys.
God bless you, Mr. Stevenson.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. God, same to you.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.